Hey, everybody, we're gonna get going. I know, I see that, Sarah, mic's on, I don't know if you can see him or not, but we're gonna get going.
Yes, Mike is.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna get going. Good, great. Thank you. So I'd like to call to order the Parks, Property and Streets Committee meeting for Monday, February 2nd, 2026 at 1 p.m. So roll call, House in here,
Berto here.
Al here. Art's here.
Laskowitz is here, he may not talk. Mike, if you want to talk and say you're here, but I got your text that you're here. Okay, up next, may I have a motion to approve today's agenda? Unless there's any changes.
Question,
Sure.
flower pot.
Sorry, I am. Sorry.
Thank you, Mike.
And Sharon was supposed to be on our agenda.
That was probably an oversight on my part that you wouldn't have known about.
Well,
Yeah.
it says it right in the minutes.
It does. I read
Yeah.
them later, yeah.
So I just in terms of getting anything, yes, it was approved, but if you wanted in terms of another agenda item in the future, I can definitely.
So
include
we
that
can bring her back
future agenda.
for just February, March. Any other questions or changes?
I'll make a motion we approve as presented.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approval for the minutes from the December 2nd, sorry, 2025 meeting. Do I have any changes or updates, edits, anything from anyone? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Louise, that might be helpful if you say who's making the motion in the second for the minutes.
oh, I'm sorry.
That might,
Okay, all right,
that's why I try and do it.
okay, so motion Berto, second Aaron's. For that one, you good?
Yes.
On the
thank you.
previous one as well?
Bellhausen.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, agenda item 4, comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. So we'll begin with our audience. First of all, thank you for coming. Appreciate that. Do we have any comments or concerns from anyone attending? That is not an agenda item. Nope.
You've got a pickleball policy on G.
Sure,
I don't know
sure.
if that's the.
Could I just ask you to do me one huge favor? I know you signed in.
Yeah.
Could you just state your name?
Oh, I'm Steve Jarzano.
Hi, Steve. You and I have corresponded via email, but I don't think we've ever met. So I'm sorry, what were you gonna, you do have an agenda item. Could it wait for that?
Sure can.
Okay, all right. Okay, anyone else? Okay, hearing none. I don't think did I see any? I don't think I saw any in the packet.
Correspondence.
Okay, so there's no correspondence in the packet, so we'll move to discussion action items 5A. Current administration building impact on road construction project, sorry. So Ben, you want to take that away?
Sure, so this is the background for this, is that as part of the December 6th, 2025 village board meeting, there was a decision to move the new administration building to the Mill Road site, which essentially allows the opportunity for the Parks Committee to provide an input regarding the road reconstruction project, which is very much tied with the administration building. So in terms of the discussion, essentially the Parks Committee would have an opportunity to provide any input about whether or not there would be which concept should move forward, whether or not there'd be any additional parking through the demolition of the administration building, or whether or not the administration building would stay, and that would inform the concept, which would have the reduced or lesser parking than the other concept. So with that, I did include just a decision tree to provide some additional information about what the impact would be for the administration building based on the decision moving forward. And then I also did provide some of the information for the concepts that were provided from REL as part of the project as well.
We already made this decision and sent it to the board.
Well, and then the board, made the decision, I think, if I'm correct, that we were to get a, appraisal.
Correct, and I did reach out to the appraisal company, executed the contract, and they're about a month out, 3 to 4 weeks, based on that to move forward for
Okay.
getting the appraisal back.
Okay, so we're gonna have to wait for the appraisal to come back, at which point we were gonna at that point, we should have, or our option was to vote to either demolish it or move forward and keep it, sell it, and whomever was going to do with it, that's what they would do it with. But I think at that board meeting, I don't know, Nate,
That was my understanding of it as well.
Right.
I think at this point, if there's anything else that the committee wants to add, no.
Correct. If there's anything, so it was the direction just to keep this moving forward, that there'd be an opportunity for any discussion. I did initiate the process for the appraisal,
okay.
that ultimately, if there is no discussion and like to table the issue, that certainly would be something that.
We table it until, because so at this point, I don't think we even refer it back to the board, it's sitting at the board. And we think, what's today, February 2nd, would it'd be there, and when did he say it'd be a month out?
So I executed the contract last week for that.
Okay.
Based
So
on the
we probably
direction
won't have it for the February board meeting, right?
It depends. I did ask for him
Okay.
to push it, but
This is the February meeting.
for the
Board meeting.
I think is what-
So if we don't have it for the February board meeting, it'll be at the March board meeting, at which point we can make a decision.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna move on, unless someone has any comments about this. I know we're moving to driveways, but unless somebody has needs.
I'm not quite sure if you'd be seeking a motion to table the issue.
We don't like to table, we like to postpone,
Okay.
because if you put it on the table, you have to take it off the table.
What would your recommendation be, Ben, for?
That's just my experience in the past with working with committees, that if an issue is not touched, that to move on to the next agenda item, to table and move on to the next agenda item.
So what had happened in the past is we went to table an item and then we were restricted from putting it again for an extended period of time. So that's why there's been the hesitancy to table it, but I don't know, you've been around a lot of different municipalities, maybe you have a different take on
Well,
it.
is it then a Robert's Rules thing, or is it a municipal thing, or is it up to the municipality?
So I believe that Robert's Rule of Order was adopted by the bylaws, and if you did take it literally, there would be an extended time, but with that being said, I think bylaws discussion is a little bit different discussion, but I think a municipality / the village can make their own rules, but it just would need to be clarified.
So I'll make a motion that we postpone this until March or later.
And
Until
what are we
Until we receive the.
postponing though, just because we already, as a committee, recommended concept one to the board. So what decision are we postponing? I guess I don't quite understand.
Well, I mean, we'd have to get feedback from the board and then say what we want to do for that, for the process moving forward. So I think there still is a place for the committee to chime in once, I understand Jerry probably feels like the village board is overridden. And to a very real degree it has, because that's ultimately the body that empowers.
Right, I mean, I think Jerry brings a good point, it won't really come back to us. Right?
So,
I mean,
I mean, what would, because the committee recommended concept one, the board is doing the board stuff. I'm not sure where it would come back to us to revisit something.
I guess we could, depends on what the board says. That's a fair point, Jerry, but ultimately, we don't know what the board is gonna say.
So is your point that if the board says something contrary to what we wanted?
Well, the board would have to refer it back to us to
Right,
make
for
a
us to do
decision on
anything anyway.
something.
Yeah. Which is why,
So I'm not sure we're postponing anything other
Yeah.
than waiting for the board to tell us to. Or ask for our opinion on something.
okay. Well, since it's an agenda item and something we need to do something with, I think that postponing is our best option. And then we'll see what happens. You're right, it's a good point. Yep,
Do you have a motion?
second. All in favor?
Motion by Bell, second by Hausen.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so.
Aye.
Was, thanks, that was Nate and Hausen. Okay, so now we are moving on and we are at the future administration building on Mill Road. That is not Mill Street, I'm not sure, just so we can just note that for the future, it's Mill Road. Okay, so let's take a look at the staff report for that, Ben.
Yes, so it's very similar to what was previously discussed for the street project, is essentially because there was a decision to move forward with the Mill Road site for the village administration building. Essentially, that provides an opportunity to reconsider the process moving forward for the project. I did include as part of the staff report just a summary of what typically occurs in terms of the roles and responsibilities for village staff, committees, and the village board. In terms of village staff, for, moving forward, it'd be the responsibility to coordinate operations, provide information to committees, and the village board to make an informed recommendations and decisions. At the committee level, it'd be an opportunity to discuss and recommend a proposed process for moving forward on the proposed administration building at the Mill Road site. And then for the village board, it'd ultimately be the responsibility to review recommendations from committees, make decisions regarding policy matters, and provide directions on major decisions for the proposed village administration building at the Mill Road site. So again, without going into great detail about what that process will be moving forward, thought it'd be a good opportunity to take a pause and allow the Parks Committee to have any discussion for anything that might be considered moving forward on the project. So with that, it's not all encompassing, but it does provide some framework about what may need to be considered as part of the project. But it may be important to consider any feasibility or assessment in terms of the long-term needs and maintenance of the space. Anything regarding the impact on the budgeting and planning for the project. With state statutes, procurement is pretty much a standard that we'd have to follow as part of this, but working that into any timeline. And then also having any, design considerations that may need to be imposed as well. And if there's anything in terms of sustainability, security, safety, accessibility, and any norms, anything that's regarding the regulatory concerns, and then obviously when this project would potentially commence onto the construction phase as well. And then lastly, what should be the process for any public input or public meetings that would be included as part of this. And I didn't include it as part of this as well, but if there would be any considerations in the future for any funding related programs that be applied for the project. So pretty broad, but just wanted to get a little bit of guidance from the committee about what that process should look like moving forward.
I think the first two bullet points have already been addressed.
I think we know the place and we know the site.
And the budgeting, it's in
And
the
the
set.
budget.
Mhm.
So is next steps kind of back to defining the space needs, like how many offices, the
But that was
size of the
done
meeting,
also.
that stuff? Right, but I don't think that fits on this site, so that would have to be revisited.
I don't think that the village board is in agreement with those parameters, and that's what came out through a long process, and it didn't go very smoothly because of that, so I do think that we need to look at our need, what we really need. And ask ourselves that.
Oh, I was just talking about staff and office space.
Yeah, I'm still saying,
Right.
yes,
Nothing beyond that. Staff had sat down with not just heirs who did the facilities plan, but they also sat down with McMahon. So, I'm not talking about the chambers, I'm not talking about other things that people have issue with, just office space and what their needs are, that.
not to put too fine of a point on it, but I don't trust that process that got us to that.
Well, let's.
You don't trust staff talking to McMahon?
I don't trust that process, how that came to be.
Well, let's look at it in another way, in a different way. So we know how many staff members we have, and they need offices in one way, shape, or form. There are a lot of ways to define an office, and I'm not suggesting anything, to tell you the truth. Certainly our administrator needs an office with walls and a door that shuts and so forth. I think one thing that could be helpful when you're building at this time in the world, and with the enormous changes the village has gone through over the last 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever, and will continue to go through, would be to acknowledge that we need flexibility in the interior of the building. And I think that what's available to us now in terms of building interiors of building would be an interesting thing to look at. And I don't mean that we're gonna bring in other people and interview and can we do this and it may be helpful to look at some buildings, and they don't necessarily, I think, have to be administration buildings, but to look at offices, places where people do business. So whether it's the administration building in Sebastopol, we talk about a lot. The NWTC building in Sturgeon Bay, which I've seen a few different times. I did wander around to look and see, because they have a lot of different meeting spaces and people can meet, study, get together in different modes in that location. The Crest is and one example, although from a meeting perspective, maybe not, but I'm just wondering if as a group, we may want to consider looking at those as a group, go together, map a few things out, and Ben may have some others to look at that I'm completely, or any of us are unfamiliar with. That would allow us the flexibility that we would need, but reasonable. I mean, people need space to work. People need space to not work. You know, to have lunch, to talk with each other, to have, you know, private conversations. You know, I work in an office that's completely open. No walls, no nothing. That's it. It's a newsroom. It's what they do. It's what we do. You know, I know how that feels. I completely get that. We have one room where people can kind of have a private conversation, a meeting room where people can go and have a private conversation. I completely understand the need for that. And that needs to be provided. You know, it's important. So, and then the flip side of it, of course, is, you know, how big does a meeting room need to be? We absolutely need a meeting room. And what else could we do in that room? You know, should we have a kitchen in there or not? Because then it kind of becomes something different besides a meeting room. So I'm just wondering if we might want to consider, if the participants or committee members would be interested in doing that. Now, it would mean that we would probably spend a day by the time we go, if we go down to Sturgeon Bay, but by the time we go to Sturgeon Bay or we go to Sebastopol or wherever else, I think seeing 3 or 4 should be enough. I don't know. And we also not just walk through and see it, but talk to people like, what do you like about what you did? What don't you like about what you did? And what would you do over? What would make more sense?
Why would we do that? We didn't do that the first time. We left it up to our architect or the company that we hired to interview staff and talk about, you know, they very much knew what we had, which was so obviously inefficient. Why would we? I don't know why we would do that. I think when we would hire somebody to design the new building, just like in the past, they would sit down with staff. And if we wanted to give them a little bit of direction of, you know, flexibility, that's fine. But I don't know that I want to dictate to staff when I don't do Sarah's job or anybody else's job up there, what it is that they're looking for and what I think is best. I don't feel comfortable in sticking my nose
You
in
bring up,
that rabbit
you
hole.
bring up a good point. And I think what we're missing, like people, whether you're working in a spreadsheet someone else has created that you get the pleasure of now working with, that makes no sense. Or I work in an environment like that, sorry. Or you work in a building that somebody else designed that has never done your job. It's frustrating. We could easily have staff members join us. Here's why. I think that we could create, we don't know what else might be available to us. I'm not suggesting the staff gave bad direction. What I do think is that maybe we missed some opportunities that we didn't even know were available, where we could have done it more, not more efficiently, make it efficient. And again, I really go back to make it more flexible and have the ability in 5 years to not, because we don't have a permanent wall, but we have privacy, we can move it. And now that becomes a small meeting room, or it becomes smaller and becomes whatever else it becomes, because things change. They just do.
It seems like, Louise, you're kind of talking about design stage, but it seems like from Nate's feedback and kind of where we got to, we really need to get back to the requirement stage of what do we need?
Mhm.
And then we can give that as direction to whoever we partner with for the design of, give us some concepts of modern workspace, traditional workspace. And any other ideas we have, and cause I think they really. That's their job to have their finger on the pulse of things and know the different options, and then if we wanna go see what one of those options is. In real life practice or talk to somebody who works in it, sure,
Mhm.
but it feels like we need to get back to, what are the requirements? How many people, how much meeting space, the
Mhm.
basics, and then go to the professional firm that we'll hire to. Give us those options.
So let me ask another, and then just one more thing, Nate, sorry. I know I'm talking a lot, but one other, the direction they were given. And it, having not been, or maybe I just don't remember it. Feels like, it was, and I'm not saying it was bad, but the direction was, I'm making it up. So we need five offices. And, was it direction that was, we need 5 cubicles? So there would be no doors, no, they could be interior, so maybe no windows. And, it doesn't go all the way up to the ceiling, right? So those are cubicles, that's what people work in. They have a limited amount of, they have some privacy, because typically those walls would be partitions, let's call them, would probably go up about 4 feet, something like that. I don't know what the normal height is. Were they given that to, like, for these, we need 4 of these kinds of designs. We need 4 cubicles. We need 3 offices. That with a wall, permanent wall, window, door. Was that what was,
Well, I think those
I'm not
requirements
sure.
came from a polling of staff and.
right, but is that what
there.
was given
And,
to?
and we have different people there now, so they probably come up with different
Mhm.
requirements.
Right, but is that what was given
Yes.
to McMahon? 4 cubicles, et cetera, because when I came on board, there was the design. I don't know what kind of direction was given to them.
So when,
Staff gave it to them. We did not talk specifically about what staff's requests were. They had meetings with them outside of our committee.
Okay,
And they gave their staff.
which they
gave
should, I mean, they
Their
were-
direction to McMahon.
Okay,
And so we were not part of that conversation. I don't think we should have been part of it. And so McMahon took the information that they received from staff to incorporate it into, and I do remember there was a lot of pushback when flexibility kept coming up. And that isn't necessarily, staff did not, we had 3 cubicles, and that was for the clerk, for utilities, for Kara, and the administrative assistant would meet people at a window, just like if you go to DCMC clinic here in Sister Bay.
uh-huh,
You have 3 people there, not a lot of privacy. But everybody else needs privacy to have private conversations. So my understanding was those were all firm offices that could be soundproof and had a door for private conversations, along with, I think, 1 spare office for growth.
yeah.
And then a room for records keeping and a small meeting room.
There's staff storage, future office, code office, finance office, village administrator office, conference room, copy room, storage room, electrical, archive storage.
Yeah, but that came
kitchen.
not from, we didn't say, you must have these rooms, it was McMahon worked with staff, came
know.
up and then.
So those are all the
brought
rooms
this
that
up.
have, those are all the offices that have walls to the ceiling and doors.
just in terms of the direction moving forward, it would just be good to know, at the start of the project versus midway in, whether or not the foundation that we're applying for any potential design would be acceptable to not repeat anything in the future. So it can be listed out, the number of rooms, the uses, what the main requirements are. But just wanted to confirm that that is the foundation and moving forward when discussing any potential contracting with A&E services about the building, right? Just making sure we're on a strong foundation for staff moving forward.
Who's A&E services?
And just architecture and engineering.
Oh, got it.
Anybody,
I was
any
thinking,
firm
I was
that's
like, what new
prepared.
firm are we talking about?
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry,
got it.
acronyms here. Yes, any architecture or engineering firm, because it would be helpful for them to know generally what we're looking for, what the site dimensions are, if there is any limitations, just something in terms of,
Well, right, and that's why they would meet with staff. They wouldn't meet with us.
but just to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of the requirements. And again, it can be decided.
Either we trust staff that knows their jobs, knows their requirements for space, or we don't.
I'm not
I am
suggesting
not
that we
going
don't
to,
trust
I
them,
am
but-
not going to tell them differently than what they need to work in that space.
I don't think we're, I mean, what we approved had a utility clerk, cubicle, which I don't think we need. So I think it would be, and that we need a little bit of guidance on this because
Yeah.
it's been a while. And so all I'm suggesting is that flexibility is important. Things change a lot. They will continue to change. And so what you might think of as a cubicle with very little privacy in actuality could be very different than what you actually experience. And techniques and technology with soundproofing has come a long way. Are things that could be done. I'm just suggesting that that's something that we owe ourselves to take a look at.
But Luis, that almost sounds more like feedback to staff if they ask for X, Y, Z, that, hey, maybe there's a better option. Cause I don't think we as a committee, unless you're suggesting it would dictate. You get a cube and you get an office
Not
and you use
suggesting that.
this stuff.
I am absolutely not suggesting that. Nate?
I think that none of the problems in Sister Bay are unique. A particular combination of issues and problems, maybe, but the things that we're doing aren't unique. There's other people that have solved some of these problems. There's other people that have built these buildings that have done that. And while I understand that staff input is important, as somebody that was part of an office being built with almost no staff input, that is not okay. That is a very frustrating thing, and that leads to resentment every time you go to that office. However, Sarah is not necessarily an expert. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Sarah. I shouldn't have done that. My apologies. Is an expert in an office utilization. So I think that there's a feedback, an appropriate level of feedback, and I think that we could use this to get some sort of concept, because what we have to do is we have to generally support this and kind of give some direction on there and give the least specific direction we can, because we don't want to have this come back again.
Well, right, that's why staff meets with the architect, has those conversations. Again, they come up with a drawing. When McMahon first did that, he brought those drawings back to staff and said, okay, here's our first layout from what we heard you say. Okay, there was tweaking that happened before it ever came back to us on what McMahon had heard from staff. So that McMahon was the experts in drawing it out. So staff eventually signed off on it. And then it came to us.
If I can, I'd like to just add a couple of comments. I can read though.
Go
Are
ahead,
you-
Mike.
I respect Lisa's point about the importance of engagement of the staff. I think Nate emphasized that. I think there's a couple other things we have to think about. I think it's this committee's responsibility to give the board advice around the building design also, which means we probably have to talk to the architect and ensure that they know, hey, this is our budget. How do we hit or come in under this budget for the space on this new site? So we have to establish that expectation. In terms of the staff input, Ben, I don't know how much experience you have with facilities, but I gotta believe, like other industries, municipal building design has some standards and there are trends that you may or may not be aware of. But yeah, from a staff perspective, you providing us that input would be really valuable. I mean, our municipalities going to the open concept that you're seeing in business, eliminating offices and using more cubes and finding more shared space that's enclosed for meetings and privacy requirements. I mean, those are the things, that's the framework I hear Ben suggesting that we need to provide to the architect before they can complete the design. Includes input from Ben and the staff. It includes parameters from this committee that is recommended back to the board, and then a little feedback from the architect with some sketches that can be reviewed again by the staff and by this committee and ultimately the board. So I'm not sure if we're all on the same page, but that's the way I'm thinking of this project.
Well, I think we're all saying we need to engage with an architect or who's an expert in the space, and they work through their process. Inputs from staff, they don't just take the inputs and go, well, we're building this building. They know that here's what staff thinks, here's Sister Bay's needs, here's what we see, general trends, and then gives us or has a dialogue with us on the design options.
I guess I'd be curious to know what Ben thinks about, is it worthwhile? You've been around a lot of municipalities, does it make sense for a committee to go out there and look at what other buildings look like, or are we getting way too far down in the weeds?
I think when we talk about the design, that could definitely be a consideration. I think when we're having the initial conversation, and again, it's not anything of where it's trying to override what staff is saying, it's just trying to come to a common understanding about what the uses are for the facility of what's being built, because we have the organization, what we have right now, but there could be changes in the future. And again, theoretically, upsides or downsides or future needs based on the services, programs, projects that are being provided. So I think it's just important to have a conversation about what those certain parameters might be like and how they would impact what the building would be. Because if you have a good building, it's gonna, be that building for the next 50 years. And, what is that building going to be used for over the life of the 50 years?
Do you want kind of like maybe a high level bulleted list of to engage with the architect of something like
Correct.
houses existing staff, has a meeting room, has an expansion, has a XYZ, and then. go from
Correct.
there.
Not everything might be feasible based on the specific site layout, but that's something would be engaged with staff as part of the process. But from the start, it's, what should a village administration building encompass ideally? Just we have a standard on paper of what everything is, and even if that's extrapolated from the previous project and then retool based on what the needs are. But I think it'd be important to have a discussion and to set the foundation before engaging with an architect.
Do you have the base parameters from the previous project as a starting point that we could
It could be
riff off of?
extrapolated, yes, but not anything that I have prepared for today.
We have, we have we've got the renderings that were approved, but I never saw what we said to McMahon, this is what we need. I don't know, you guys must have presented it at some point.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, so we need X
Might have
number
been
of
before my
buildings,
time.
okay, so it's there, it's.
Well, it'd be
gotta
based
be there,
on,
right?
the number of staff, and then again, if there are any additional uses that might be of use for now and for the future, it might be a good consideration.
Well, would have
this
been
time.
2022 or early 23, I think. So Julie probably has it, someplace in her files, what was sent to McMahon. So we should look at that.
Like, do you want to go back and look for that for the future, or do you want
Yeah, I
general
mean,
something now from us, or?
if it's the direction moving forward, this is the start of the conversation, right? This is the first meeting following the selection of the site. Essentially moving forward, just wanted to make sure that we establish what the process would be moving forward, and that there is some consensus or generally some framework so that we don't have any unexpected or eliminate as much
Mhm.
unexpected as possible. So if we start off with the feasibility and assessment, It would be extrapolating what was there or taking directly what was there from the previous project, having a discussion about it and seeing if that needs to change, because that would ultimately inform staff's involvement and any, retooling about what our current needs are and potentially looking at what the needs are for the future. But ultimately not saying.
Well, I mean, I think we know that we need to house in some office fashion everybody that's in the current building.
Sure.
And we know that we need a place for records. And we know that we need meeting space.
Well, let's drill down on that records, because that's a question, that's something that Ben and I have chatted about a little bit, is how much record space do we really need? Because the amount,
Well, but that's getting to the
Oh, yeah,
detail.
okay.
At first, we say we need a
Yeah,
space for records, and then in the details, we figure out, is it big, is it
It's
little, is
currently
it a server?
120 square feet or less.
Archive and
Records are-
storage is 16 by 4, maybe, something like that. And then there's a separate room with walls for election.
You say current.
What we approved, what was approved the last time.
Well, but if we're stepping back
I got you.
to the base
just looking at the-
parameters.
Yeah, I said
And are
correct,
you
but I'm
saying
pretty
that
sure I'm
based
right.
on,
This is
the
what-
log request site?
No,
Or based on the?
this is the,
Yeah.
this was what was, I forget, I think I have the date written down, but there it is. So you've got elections here and you have archives there.
And this would be based on the Pine. This would be based.
This
on
is
Mill
just the
Road.
building,
Okay.
where, this is August, that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I just didn't know, so when you are resetting the location, like, I guess it can be the assumption that everything is gonna fit perfectly within the site, but it may not necessarily.
I don't know that it will.
That's what I
I-
mean.
We know that it will not.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
the point was, because now we can just have an ugly downtown building that's, has no character.
Which we
Because
will
when
avoid
we
at all
chose
costs.
the Lagerquist property, when we purchased it and we talked about putting it out there, we wanted to keep the historical corner and the buildings and the barn and everything. Talked about repurposing, adding other things out there to enhance that corner. And so we had decided, the Parks Committee at that time wanted it to have, look like a farmhouse, even though we know it was a very large building, that it was, but they did a pretty good job. And so it wasn't, it would blend in and it would give a feel to it. Obviously, on the new parcel, none of that applies.
And that-
So,
That's why I think is important is that if this is what was assessed in terms of the needs, does that still stand for moving into the process for the design phase?
I would
What-
say it's just
High
not-
level needs, yes,
No.
the exact space and size and whether they're offices or not. No, I think we need to reset to the high level needs
Yeah.
of
yeah.
storage, personnel, meeting
Right, high level
space.
needs, yes.
It's not defined yet,
Extra
no, and
office,
work on the
Yeah,
details.
extra office space, extra small conference room.
The other thing that
Room
you've
for
mentioned,
utilities.
Ben, that I think is something that we need to do better on this go around is also the public input part of it, because. And there may not be a lot of public input for on this, but there was certainly some people that said, well, have you considered putting this in there for this public use? And all that, it is a public building, I do think that we should try and solicit public input on the front end of this. In the beginning,
That's part of the high level need.
yeah, as a yes, you're right, Jerry, you've got to ask. You get the best results when you ask the broadest questions and then drill down.
Mhm.
And I would just say, just again, I think that hits it with the foundation, it's just making sure that if this is gonna start off on the right foot, it's just we're working with a set of assumptions. And if everyone is on the same page, we can then move forward to the next phase and reevaluate what that would look like and then, continually move on. But the first step in this, at least in my opinion, is just making sure that we have a strong foundation in terms of what the needs are, that when staff brings it forward and evaluates it with the architecture and engineering firm, that we're not, shooting ourselves in the foot, that there's an opportunity to consider what the needs are, and not just what was a transplant from the previous project per se. Just because there is a new site, there's new site conditions, there's gonna be, some limitations as well as opportunities.
So how, not having chosen an architect or anything yet, how would you suggest we move forward on that?
So I think, just again, this might just be my recommendation, but in terms of, looking at the site, extrapolating what the requirements are, coming back at a committee level and discussing and making sure we're on the same page. And then for, either making some, retoolments or to, authorize staff to move forward with contracting, with the architecture and engineering firm for design services.
I think we need to do that first, because if we have to put out RFPs, that's gonna take a while.
Do what first?
As solicit for RFPs, for, an architectural and engineering company.
But we don't know what we're soliciting for. Do we?
In administration buildings.
Yeah, but don't they need more specifics or not?
We can just hire can't we just hire a company? That we are going to, because that's going to be a process. That is a multi-month process. And we can still, while that's going on, we can still be having the other conversations and narrowing it down on what we're looking
We
for.
would probably need that high level, at least bulleted list of needs
Right.
in order for.
Yeah.
Which I think that we can do today, because I don't think that there's anything on the old plan that we approved.
Yeah, I guess the only question was, like, you mentioned no spot for the clerk or no window for the clerk,
No, utilities.
the utilities clerk, you said.
It was Kara's, yeah. She's not there anymore.
But that would be, I think, the couple of things that maybe we don't quite agree on yet.
And that was from my understanding, temporary, not necessarily permanent.
It's a cubicle, right?
No, Kara moving.
Oh, no one told me that. That's temporary?
Oh, I believe that was a long-term plan, had been for some time, before Kara.
I would have to look into it, but I mean, I think that's part of the discussion from a policy perspective is what are the needs? Making sure we establish a baseline in terms of the needs and potentially future staffing and or uses of the facility. And again, I'm not trying to overstep in any way. It's just been my experience of where you have that. And not only does it help with moving forward from an architecture and engineering to provide them with it, even though it might just take, another meeting or another, whatever length of time, but it can set the foundation for the project moving forward or what the expectations are.
Well, do we just want to start with a list then of who's there today? Who might need to move?
I would
from
say we
another
do that at
building?
another meeting. I wasn't
It can-
anticipating it would be today, but
My anticipation is that if this was something that we can just have the assessment, is that based on the prior description, we would present what essentially the framework would be without going into too much detail. Of just saying, here's what the needs are, and if there would be a discussion, just because it is going to be the building for the next 50 years, hopefully. And talking about what that would be and just making sure that it's been reviewed and we're all on the same page.
So kind of your timeline is write something down, we review and edit it next time. Or write something down, being you write something down, we review and edit it the next time, and then the RFP process starts.
That would be a consideration if we're looking forward to, and that's the other thing in terms of a timeline, is that if we're looking to move this project forward as quickly as possible, yes, there are some things you can skip along the way, but if there's any considerations, that need to go into the planning, that would be good to know, because I can write up a plan of what we're looking at over a period of time, but if it's being steamrolled through, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and that there is an understanding, and if there is some type of want and or need for any public input, or if there's anything in terms of considerations for, sustainability, safety, accessibility, there's certain things about buildings that, it matches the character of the community that it's in, and it'd be good to know, what that is part of the process when working with the architects and engineers, so.
well, I mean, waiting another month. I don't think it's gonna make a difference, and it gives time for for Ben, who was unfamiliar until 3 or 4 weeks ago. And all of us actually to do the work that needs to be done, to take a look at what, using Ben's word, what the requirements are.
I hate waiting another month. We have been waiting and waiting and waiting already.
I just don't think we're prepared to do it today. Unless somebody else thinks that we're all set to go.
I also think that we do need to get public input on this. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but I think it's a really important thing that we need to do on the front end of this, because that's ultimately one of the things that stopped this project. With the perception of.
Yeah, this-
So we've got to, I feel very strongly that we need to incorporate that into this process.
No, that didn't stop the project.
That's your.
I think
The
it
board
was-
stopped the project.
I think that it was public input was, the board listened to the public input, how's that? All right, so. Do we need a motion or what do we need at this point?
Yeah, so I mean, if you wanted to make a motion for staff to, collect the facility assessment and bring it to the Parks Committee at the, March meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Sounds like for discussion that you would also like a public input session into that. Because if we
Does that
talk
need-
about
does
it
that
next
need to be a
meeting.
separate motion or no?
Well, I mean, it can be, so I guess, just before moving on there, but in terms of the process, it's, as I said, I can write something up in terms of a proposed timeline for it, but I just want to make sure that that is the anticipation of the committee, the boards, involved in this process, is that we're making sure we're establishing this project on a good foot, and that we're essentially moving forward, that it is going to likely succeed in a building being built, right?
Well, you
So,
would need public input before we meet again, I think.
yeah, it just depends on which
That was my
process you
point.
want the public input to be involved
Well,
with.
then that should be the next meeting.
Is request public input at that meeting?
We won't have time to work with it, will we?
What do we need to do with it other than hear it and then?
Okay, all right,
put it
I
in
hear
the
you. So it could be a public input, could be at the beginning of the next meeting, I see. Okay, does that sound workable to you?
Sure. So you just wanted to clarify
That's
that
March 2nd.
for the public input, is this a formal public hearing, or is this just an opportunity to open it up for the members of the public to?
I think some sort of notice that this will be discussed at that meeting and to bring your input during the public.
What's the difference between a
section.
public input and public hearing?
Well, if you provide, so a public hearing is an actual, term that would be within our ordinance and state statute that essentially you would have a class 2 notice, you provide an opportunity for members of the public to provide input. There typically is not as much discussion and back and forth, and it's intended to have an opportunity for them to make, for any members of the public to express their input prior to making a decision. In terms of just generally receiving input, it could be more like a public informational meeting where there is a little bit more back and forth and it's not statutorily mandated. And not to get too picky, but just from what it sounds like it's more of a public informational meeting for the administration building.
So basically, they're going to give us input, because we're not gonna, they can stay to hear what we're gonna say, right? But we would get that input prior to the meeting, right?
You would get it as part, essentially it'd be like anything for
Yeah,
a plan
okay.
commission meeting where you say it, you're not
Yep,
really
all right.
supposed to have too much dialogue, but as a public informational meeting, you can provide the information to them and then they would have an opportunity to have a dialogue back and forth
Okay.
regarding it, which could result in any decision being made following that or a motion being made following that public informational meeting.
Okay. Okay, so we want to reword that motion? Or do you want, you just say something?
Yeah, so I mean, it would be to instruct staff to include a public informational meeting as part of the March 2026 Parks Committee meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Mike?
Aye.
Okay,
One thing under regulatory compliance in your report, you don't include zoning in there.
Yeah, this is more a broad stroke for that. But yeah, I could definitely make a note of it.
okay, so I will now move on. One sec. On the agenda. Here we go. Okay, up next. Excuse me. Is 5C, Robert E. Lee and Associates, Left Side Area Road Design Driveway Widths. What do we got?
Good to start off here. First, I just want to ask, Jennifer, are you still on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. We do have Jennifer from Robert E. Lee who can also provide some additional information regarding this item, but we're here today to discuss the triangle, otherwise known as the Bluff Side Area Road Design Project. At the November 3rd Parks Committee meeting, there was some discussion regarding non-compliant driveways, and then it was the consensus of the Parks Committee to send out letters to the existing property owners within the construction area to get their input on whether or not they would be interested in, one, changing their driveway to make it compliant with the code as part of the construction project, two, to remain in a non-compliant state, and to ultimately potentially improve their project, improve the driveway, and make corrections to make it into compliance at a later date. And so it wouldn't be touched as part of the project. So staff sent out letters, and we received the majority of the information back, but there was some additional owners that were trickling in terms of their responses. So that was summarized within the background information. And I did have a conversation regarding the 10627 North Bay Shore Drive. And they reiterated that they were still interested in keeping things as is as part of the project. So just wanted to reiterate that as part of the staff report.
But what does that mean in your staff report when it says they declined to follow village process?
So that was something before that they wanted to go further into a state of non-compliance. So this was a summarized email that was listed from Julie in their position as the village administrator, that they essentially wanted to go beyond what the existing requirements are. So based on the discussion at the last meeting, my interpretation was that it's either the status quo, it can be remain in non-compliance and fix it at your own expense later on, or two, that you'd have an opportunity to have this paid for as part of the project and get into compliance.
So I thought at the November meeting, we literally went line by line through these
We
and
did.
talked on
We
each
did.
one and mentioned like, okay, roll curb here, make it compliant there, put this there.
So I'm bringing it home real quick here, I promise. So as part of the project, though, there was one non-response as part of it. So I'm not quite sure if that was included. Again, some things, you know, aren't as apparent.
Well, and I thought the responses that we asked for were, here's our opinion, but if they want to do something slightly different within these parameters, let's send them a letter. But
Yes, so
that was a few months ago.
they responded to the letter, and here's the summary of the ones that were last part of trickling in. But the main thing is that as part of the project, there was one that they could not get a hold of as part of it. And that essentially they would need to know whether or not to remain in non-compliant.
So don't we just need to make a decision on only that one? It kind of sounds like you're asking for input on all of them.
I'm summarizing what the previous actions were for it, framing it up, because I had to, you know, just to get an understanding of what's going on, I had to do a little bit more research on what the project was to date. But yes, so there was action taken. Here is what it is for the remaining ones that were indicated within an email that were remaining responses. And that there was one specific property that did not
10631,
respond.
right?
Yep, 10631 Bluffside Lane.
That's what you said.
That was not included as a response, and so we need to know whether or not it would be relevant to just leave it as status quo, since they did not make a decision, or to.
I guess my only concern is I see this spreadsheet that we went through last time, but I don't see it recorded for each of the addresses, what we talked about last time, and I'm worried that
This is
that
from the last meeting.
feedback got lost.
This is from the last meeting, and again, Julie has been in communication with Jennifer from Robert E. Lee as well. And I believe they have everything shored up. These were the remaining responses that were yet to be received. And that there is one that a response was not received back, and that a determination would need to be made whether or not they are allowed to remain in a state of compliance as part of the project, or if automatically they should be, it should be corrected as part of this project.
Jerry, I think your concern is that that's not recorded somewhere. I think
You
that
want-
Ben, what
So
Ben
you
is
want
saying,
this sheet updated?
yeah, Ben is saying he included as it was submitted to the packet again. So Ben, somewhere there's an updated version of that sheet, I'm guessing.
I'm assuming so.
Jennifer, were you involved in updating the sheet that shows us updates on access for each of the properties?
I was not directly involved. A lot of the non-compliant driveways we left as non-compliant, I believe. There was 4 that Julie did reach out for letters to, that I believe the committee had decided back in November to get more decision or input on those properties.
Okay, so it's one that's still outstanding. So what, I think what we're wondering is, so this is Julie's document. She did this, right?
Jennifer, was it originating as part of your memo?
It was in the packet, last meeting. You
I
were,
can share my document here.
Oh, yeah, she can't see what words.
Okay, do you
Well,
see a spreadsheet? Oh, there we go.
yep, that's it.
Yep, so, okay, this was generated by me. And then all the red ones we went through, and anything that's not commented here, I believe the committee said it was okay to exist as is. There was 4 of them, so Parkview Cottage, there's 2 driveways there that Julie sent an email or a letter out to, and they wanted to leave it as is. And then the other 2 would be the rear of Lure Restaurant, and then the other driveway across the road on Bluff side.
Yes.
Those, they were sent letters. Not that we didn't get, or she did not get a definitive answer on if they wanted to keep their driveway as is or become compliant.
Okay, so I think that's what you're looking for, Jerry. Because these have all been updated with responses or access responses, correct?
I just wanna make sure that all wasn't lost somewhere. That sounds like it's not.
Doesn't look like it's here.
Yes.
I mean, doesn't
Nope.
look like it's here, so.
My
So
apologies. I
today,
can send this over to Ben after the meeting.
If you can send it to Ben, that would be great.
We just need to go through these 4 today.
Correct, here are the responses, these 4, and then technically the 4th response is that we did not, attempts were made to receive a response and no response was received back. And there needs to be an interpretation about what that would mean moving forward.
So 3 we got responses from, and those are agreed to narrow driveways, the first, sorry, request to leave driveway, agreed to narrow driveway, declined to follow village process, needs existing area for truck access, driver will remain as is. That's
So
what-
I had the discussion with Chris,
With Chris,
and essentially I outlined the 2 options of, either remaining in non-compliance based on what it is, but you cannot supersede what you're currently doing,
Mhm.
or 2, that it would be an opportunity to get into compliance, but it to be included as part of the project. And based on that meeting, the 15-minute meeting that I had with him today, he said that he would, the preference would be to remain in compliance.
So we're
It were
beautifying,
as well, excuse me.
we're in a sense beautifying this area with new roads, sewer and water, sidewalks, curb and gutter. And we had talked about specifically, the Lure property, that if we could get them to narrow their, driveway and bring it into conformance, there could be some additional parking along there. So, and they don't wanna do that. I
No, they
understand
just, I
that.
thought you said that they want to come to compliance.
So that's, sorry, excuse me, they wanted to remain in the status quo, so what they have existing, but I believe that and this can be additional clarification, but I believe that it was based on the concept that they would have access for the area that would be in blue onto the concept site map, and that'd be listed here. that would have access for the garbage receptacles over there.
Right, hence. That's my gripe. They have dumpsters sitting out there that are not out of view. We have a code about that. We're going to be spending, you know, $2 to $3 million in this whole Mill Road Triangle project. And if we allow them to stay in non-compliance, I think that their trash should become compliant.
So what's our, recourse?
So I mean, I would probably just take these one at a time. If you did in the past make a decision about what you.
I mean
were looking
specifically,
to
I'm
do.
sorry, I'm
But-
for 10627.
Yes, if we're looking at it in terms of 10627, I mean, there could be a process moving forward in terms of having further discussions about what would need to be clarified for that area, and if they were interested in having that be an opportunity to allow for additional parking. So I mean, it could be something that would be the direction moving forward from the committee to have that conversation to see if it's
Well, I'm
feasible.
saying that that's what we had hoped for the last time that we specifically talked about this particular piece of property. They don't want to come into compliance, but they also, and that's fine because they have the right to keep it non-compliant. My question is, if we go along with leaving it exactly the way that it is, and how do we address their dumpsters
The dumpsters.
sitting out there
Yeah.
that are not screened?
That's a good question.
Is this an opportunity we have to say, okay, this is outside of the road, this is not in compliance, you need to get it.
It's a separate code violation.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be separate, but I mean, it could also, it could be addressed. I'm just trying to think a little bit more about it here. I can understand that it is an opportunity to move forward for other compliance issues. I guess the only thing that I'd have to look into is in terms of, whether or not it would be appropriate to use that as a, you know, somewhat of a bargaining chip for it, right? I mean, it's somewhat of a separate issue, but I would definitely want to seek direction, and I would probably need additional information to.
Well, let's say it's not a bargaining chip. Let's say that the driver width stays the same. I think we've always wanted, as we've asked everybody else, the dumpsters to be,
Screened.
screened.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I just would want to make sure just that it would be appropriate, and I just would probably need a little bit more information or background for it.
Because my question would be, if the driveway was narrowed, we'd still want them screened.
Right, either way.
So
I'm not saying to use it as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
they'd still need to be screened, so keep them wide, screen them. Is that a problem?
No, I don't, I just, it's probably a separate issue, so if it's being addressed, it would just be another opportunity to address it when we're already looking at the area.
Okay. Do we have a consensus on that?
Yes,
Yeah, Mike, I know you can't see it, but I'm not sure if you have, I know you can't see it. Okay, so moving on to 10631 Bluffside.
Yes, and just in case you did want to have any discussion to reaffirm what was indicated from Parkview and for Bluffside that were listed within the first two bullet points as well.
Where's?
I'm not quite sure what process you would utilize, but it sounded like you went line by line to make sure that it was there, but if it's fine, just reaffirming that based on what they indicated.
I just have to remember where 10631,
There is a map.
the address is there though?
He's better, that's what I'm doing.
So if you're looking at,
Street view, okay.
Wait,
Okay.
that's, yeah, with all the, straight in parking spots currently.
Gotcha.
And that we talked about rolled curb,
Mhm. I know where it is, okay.
and they could like you can drive over a rolled curb. Unless you have
Yeah.
a Corvette or something.
Right,
But Nate, it's different owners now. It's not that. I mean, it might be the same name, but it's different. People.
So I believe it's 18 was the property number for the map corresponding.
I also have it up on GIS too. This is the property here.
18? No, it's not 18, is it? Hold
Let me
on.
see, 370.
Which particular one are we looking at right now?
So just saying, in terms of the process in the past, so what my understanding was that it went through line by line and it was determined, whether or not what was going to be in terms of access. And so staff reached out, we received a response, which is summarized here. Is it that their response is acceptable, no review needed, or just reaffirming, the
So
decision?
let's talk about each of them. Which one? We talked about, 1067 North Bay Shore, right?
Correct.
Now we're talking about which one?
It depends, did you want to start with, 10631 Bluffside Lane, or did you want to go from top to
I
bottom?
thought we were talking about Bluffside Lane. Sorry.
That's what I was talking. I don't know. I
There's
don't
two
know.
Bluffside lanes, so which one?
1031.
Okay,
Kind of important. We're all talking about the same thing. Good.
Yeah, and
Next time we'll put numbers on it.
it's 3 different access locations.
right, and like Jerry said, we had talked about rolled curb. If they didn't respond, I think we move forward, we leave it open, it's rolled curb, they can go over it.
it was kind of a courtesy to them of where do you
Right.
want your 24 feet of
Right.
compliant opening? And the rest is gonna be rolled curb. So they didn't tell us where they want their 24 feet, so Jennifer sticks it somewhere and done.
Yep.
Perfect. Want to make sure that was the understanding.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Nate?
It's good. Makes sense.
Which one's next?
There are 2 remaining. It's either Parkview or the other Bluffside Lane property.
Well, we're on Bluffside. Let's stick there. So
Uh,
10636 Bluffside.
And that was the summary is that they agreed to narrow the driveways to 24 feet.
And whose property is that? What was the property address? I'm sorry. 10636 Bluffside. Thank you.
That'd be for Bluffside Rentals, and it would be listed as number 7 on the map.
I don't have it printed out now.
I think it's this guy,
Should be,
just north of the village office.
Yeah, Jerry, I can't see that from here.
I believe it was
We got those binoculars.
included as part of the act.
I know it's in here and I have to keep scrolling.
Okay.
So far back and then back down to the agenda items that were
Right
at.
behind you.
This would be 7.
Okay, so they want to narrow to 24 feet.
Correct.
Okay, no problem. Oh, well, as long as you're here, then what's the last one?
Let me
2370 Parkview.
2370 Parkview, and that'd be for 26.
Oh, that's Kim's.
Yep.
Curb will be built in.
So is that feedback essentially give us a compliant opening and, we'll adjust our driveway if we need to?
I think Kim had two,
He has 2.
he has 2 driveways.
Yeah, there's one on, well, there's 2 Parkview. One's lane, one's drive. So he's got one going towards the water and one going north-south. Wonder which one it is.
Yes.
Well, you said 20, I know which one it
Well,
is. It's
both
the one,
were,
yeah.
so both were listed as non-compliant for that. And so on the Parkview Drive, the request was to leave the driveway as is, and the curb will be built around the existing driveway.
Okay.
So essentially the status quo.
And what about lane? What was it gonna be?
For lanes,
Yes,
that's
okay.
what their indication was that they wanted it to be 24 feet. And that, let's see if they have the existing. Let's see, and then the driveway width is for 31 feet currently.
So that would be narrowed.
Correct, yep, it would be
Okay.
narrowed, but it would be for 24 feet is what they're requesting.
Is it roll curve there or
Let's see,
do we know?
Jennifer, do you have any input on it at all?
Yeah, it'll be roll curb down there too.
Okay. Okay.
So let me backtrack. Number 26, the driveway on Parkview Drive is gonna stay as is. Correct? Did I hear that right?
Or on Parkview Drive, was that, did you want to get an official consensus? For leaving driveway as is?
Hold on, let me back up just. And that's 2370 Parkview Drive, sorry. Request to leave driveway as is, curb will be around existing driveway. How wide's the driveway?
36 feet.
Oh, that's the one that's 36. It's drive that's 36, not,
And I
Yep,
think they're saying
the-
24 foot or whatever the compliant opening is, rolled curb for the rest. They keep whatever's paved, and that's it, right?
mhm,
Which I think is kind of what we,
is what we talked about before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nate, you're good with
Yeah,
that?
I'm good.
Okay. Other questions, Jennifer?
And then the width on Parkview Lane currently is 26. The owner wanted to leave it as is.
Right. Okay,
So are we keeping it at 26?
I thought we were narrowing it to 24 to be compliant, and their driveway would be a little wider in the open.
Right, and there'd be roll curb. That's what I thought what the intent was on the majority of this.
on 27, right, Jerry? You're looking at 27?
I think so.
Yeah, you are, lane and drive, why we did that, well, anyway, that's 27. Narrowing it 2 feet, okay.
I
Nate?
believe this
Going from
property,
36 to 24.
I'm sorry, Jennifer, could you repeat that?
yep, sorry. I believe this property Julie did send it to the property owner because the driveways kind of do act as a parking lot area for multiple cars
You're right.
as they exist today.
They do. Those rental properties, yeah, they're local. So just to repeat, number 27, which is Parkview Lane, is going to go from 26 to 24.
With rule.
Rolled curb on the side, so it doesn't greatly inhibit the
Right.
use of it,
Yep.
but it makes it compliant with the code.
And number 26, did you say he wants to keep it as is? Number 26 is Parkview Drive.
For Parkview Drive, yes, they want to request to leave the driveway as is.
And it is currently
36 feet. So we'll narrow that to 24 with the rest of it rolled curb.
Yeah, just like we've done with all the other addresses.
yeah, if we need.
So
we
it's
wanna
still
be-
usable, but in
consistent.
compliance.
Okay. So if you narrow it, then they're gonna be parking on the grass.
No, because we're not ripping up his driveway and putting grass in.
Okay, but they could be driving over a road curb. Got it. Okay. Yeah, you all right with that, Nate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted to let you know that Eric is raising his hand.
So you gotta go.
No,
Or what?
I don't. I just had a question on 26.
Parkview
Is that
Drive.
getting rolled curve as well? Because I know that that resident had.
We just
came
said it
to our-
was, yeah.
It is getting rolled.
Yeah.
26.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same, it's Kim, he owns 26 and 27. So the whole property would get rolled.
So I just wasn't clear in trying to follow all this. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure he was, had the opportunity to get rolled curb, because I know he was at that public meeting here. And he had a lot of concerns about runoff. So I just want to make sure if he's aware that, the curve isn't gonna stop by his driveway, it'll be a roll curve by his driveway, so
Yep.
that water will continue down past his property.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, yay. Anything else?
So, Jennifer, we can definitely just reiterate, offline about what was, decided for that, but I think, just let me know, we can connect after that, and we can let me know if you have any questions.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Jennifer, thanks for joining us.
She did,
Yep.
will, probably be present in case there's any questions for, the items for the proposed amendments number, 2 and for 3 for the 57 trail as well.
Well, since I can't go out of order.
No, we're good.
Okay.
She said. she stayed.
Just hold on for a bit. Okay, number 5D, Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program Encumbrance Resolution Options, Parking Lot Appraisal. So we got the appraisal, right?
Yep, so, I mean, there was a lot of background information about how this came about, you've been around here longer than I have, so. If you do need any specific information regarding the background for it, let me know. Otherwise, the direction from from previous meetings within 2025 was for staff to reach out and to get an appraisal report that was received on January 8th, 2026. And that you have the number there of, you see, $703,000.
Yeah.
And that essentially it would be an opportunity moving forward to determine what potential alternatives you'd be looking to, or making a recommendation for to resolve the Knowles Nelson encumbrance, which may include paying the DNR for the value, creating a new parking lot based on the similar value in another area, or to identify an area that is not currently owned by the village, but could be developed to meet the requirement.
Well, it can be, it doesn't have to, from what they said, it doesn't have to be a parking lot, it just has to be land encumbered of like value.
Yep, so I mean, yes, I mean, it's a very high level summary for it, just getting involved, but in terms of the appraisal, it's here, and that there's an opportunity to make a recommendation about the process moving forward based on the number.
And so is our Knowles Nelson encumbrance that we need to replace the 730, or is it a fraction of the 730?
It's the 3 stalls,
Right, which I thought is the
0.30 acres.
less than that, right, 0.03?
Just those stalls, so the whole acreage is 0.67 acres. The entire parcel of the parking lot, I believe. Am I wrong? I think
Yeah,
I'm right.
it says the site area is 0.67,
Right, so it's 3 stalls within it, and I
which is
thought,
the 0.06 that we transferred from the waterfront to there, because it's not the entire parking lot.
No, it's
that's
not.
encumbered.
correct,
So that's what I was asking, so if only a tenth of it is Knowles Nelson encumbered, is a tenth of the 730 what we need to replace? That was what.
right, that,
So I mean, the number, it could
That's
be.
not how I understood it.
well, it's a good, I mean, it's a
Well, so I
good
don't-
question, because I immediately took whatever percent the stalls were, and told like you did. And said, okay, let's apply that percentage to the appraisal.
Okay, so do we need 73,000 or do we need 730,000
Well, how did
of
you
land
take
to
it?
replace it?
You took the full 730? Denise?
I did.
Well, when we were talking to Luke the last time, this was back in August 4th, we had that meeting. And my notes were just those stalls. And during our conversation, he said you need like acreage, value, and benefit to the public.
Right, but we have, in any of our discussions over, since we were notified that we were in non-compliance with the state, that we were only talking about 3 parking stalls.
Yeah, the 0.06 size.
We have never talked about it in that manner. Because if we only had to worry about 3 parking stalls, we could have found, that's a very small amount of money, you know, going back to your question, Jared.
Yeah, how much land do we need to find?
Right, how much land do we need to find? And we were looking at other, not huge lots, but that had some size to them. So, did you? So now you've confused me. Because when we met with him,
Still
when he was
confused.
here at the parks,
Yeah.
that's the whole purpose that we had the appraisal. And I can't believe that we would have an appraisal for 3 parking spaces, but we have a dollar figure of 730,000,
But with the appraisal is for the whole
No,
lot.
the appraisal's for the whole thing.
because they gave us grant money for the whole parking lot.
Right, and I distinctly remember the discussion, which was, well, we only really need for 3 parking spaces. But I mean, his appraisal, I don't know, what is it, 50 pages long? Got a lot of interesting information in there, actually, when you cruise through it.
I don't know, we didn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's linked.
Oh, that's right, there was.
Click on it. It's
That's
long and the information
yeah.
is useful in other areas, actually. But, that's what, Nate, how do you remember it? That's what I remember him saying.
So I think the question is, did we want to clear the entire encumbrance? Like, I think that was still our choice. If we wanted to free up the lot, the goal was to
Define
free up the
the-
lot.
Define the entire encumbrance.
So you got the portion that we're talking about, the 3 spaces,
Yep.
is the spaces we've allocated to the Dole Hotel. That's what the issue is. It's not that we have parking lot in general, we have allocated spaces to the Dole Hotel in that parking lot.
Yeah, so we have 3 spaces that are
With,
encumbered.
So, but I think it depends on what our goal is. If we want to remove the encumbrance entirely, it's 730,000. Realistically, if we do that, the likely outcome is you sell the parking lot. But I don't think that we have a finite answer on what happens if we just want to remove the encumbrance on part of it. It
I
starts
thought
with
we
having.
did. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I thought the DNR issue
That's
is as
what
long
Luke
as
said
we
at the
resolved the partial encumbrance, they were happy.
Right,
so
that's
I,
what I mean, we can listen to the recording.
I could not find anything in terms of an actual letter that was submitted following that. Was there any correspondence that was included as a follow-up to that meeting?
I
That
think it was all verbal in the meeting.
okay.
Yeah, he was just on Zoom, that was a good meeting.
I'm sure I'm assuming it was Zoom, so there's
I
a
think we just
recording.
have to call Luke.
Yeah, cause now at least we could, before it was, we don't know how much it's worth, we don't know, and now we can say, here's the whole parking lot is worth this. What do we need, how much do we need to replace it with?
And then the other
There's a
question on there
video
is,
of that meeting you can
and
listen to.
can we remove the encumbrance from the parcel that ends in 10 then? If we have to, gotta do it by a whole parcel, because that is, that's that small little one. It's gonna have enough space.
The little sliver.
Yeah.
But that one, we're not in non-compliance, right?
It was included in the assessment, which is what I was. That didn't entirely make sense to me why it was in there, because if I looked at it, it says-
Cause they did 0.67 and that's 0.07, and the rest of the lot is 0.6. So the 730 is both.
yes.
Repeat what you just said.
There's 2 little lots there, a
Yep.
0.6 lot and a 0.07 lot.
Yep,
They appraised 0.67 worth, so both lots together. Or both parcels together.
got it.
I think the encumbrance is only on the one, or the out of compliance encumbrance is only on the one with the 3 spaces.
So here's the minutes from the meeting. Luke Rothler from the DNR joined to discuss options for addressing the Knowles Nelson stewardship encumbrance on the parking lot parcel next to the Door Hotel. He explained that to remove the encumbrance, the village would need to provide replacement land that equals or exceeds the original parcel in acreage, 0.6 acres.
So it's the 0.6 piece, not the 0.
Now, we can listen to there's a video, there's audio that we can listen to, but that's what this says. Committee
So like
discussed
the
various
value that needs to
options.
be replaced is the 730 minus the 0.7
Yeah,
Mhm.
amount.
Motion to recommend the board pursue an appraisal, which we've done. That was August. This is February. We've done it. So I think we know what we need to do. You can listen to them, but that's what it sounds like.
So,
unless he changes his mind, sounds like that's what we need to do.
so whether or not it's a motion or just moving forward, but it should just be contacted with the DNR to
Yeah.
clarify that we have the appraisal and to confirm. First off, what the lot size of replacement and then what the value would be based on the appraisal.
Yeah,
So we'll
and the
do that.
conversion is for the point, of 0.6 acres, correct. So then you'd bring that back and then we could, in the meantime, so, it could be green space or other recreational use as long as it met the 3 requirements, which, as I said before, was acreage value and benefit to the
And
public.
there is an appraisal in progress on the current village hall site?
Yeah. But
The admin bill.
Just the building or the?
the whole thing.
So I just wanna make sure, because you said village hall and the admin. bill.
Oh,
So make sure-
sorry.
Make
This,
sure we're talking.
I
about the
used
same-
imprecise language. The current admin building
Yeah,
on
that
the
is-
corner of whatever.
Yeah, no, that is for the property and the building.
Okay,
And that's not, this is with the risk of an appraisal, this is contacting real estate.
but that'll give us ballpark
Yes,
to know if maybe that's an option.
yes.
And I think we already know ballpark what the Lagerquist site
Well,
cost.
if we wanted to move ahead with that, if that's what the village board decided to do, then we'd have to get an appraisal like this.
Right, the fancy appraisal.
Well, I'm not sure when we asked for this appraisal, again, the meeting was in August and it's August, September, October, November, December, January, took 6 months.
I do know that it is more seasonal based on when it is available, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I mean,
so it's quicker sometimes a year than others, is
correct.
that what you mean? Okay. Is now a speedy time of year?
Yes, it is. There's not a lot of other real
Good to
estate
know.
transactions.
Okay. All right, so that's the next step for that, and then we can get this solved.
Well, then we'll probably have to fancy appraise something else.
Yeah.
And then solve it.
Okay,
Then after we understand what the value is, then we can talk about what other options are. And then we can figure out what the next step is, because you're right, something will have to get fancy appraised,
Mhm.
which is a term I'm gonna run with Gary. It's the fancy appraised.
fancy appraised, okay. Next up, 5E and 5F, so we'll do E first. 57 Trail Robert E. Lee and Associate proposed amendment number 2.
Yes, so amendment number 2, so I was contacted by Jennifer and folks over at REL. They had proposed an amendment number 2, which would include wetland delineation, phase 1, hazardous material assessment, right-of-way plat preparation, and additional curb ramped crossing. So as part of that, essentially, were identified as additional requirements that are associated with the Transportation Alternative Program, otherwise known as TAP, funding that's associated with it. So in order to be compliant with what is going on with the grant, it would be proposed to execute this agreement for the additional services. And Jennifer is available if she did want to provide any additional information about what is proposed as part of the amendment number 2.
So we already approved the additional funding for amendment 1 for 6,500.
Correct, that was previously, yes, that was in previous, in September 2025, the additional work was approved.
So when you say the fiscal impact, and is it currently budgeted, and you say partially? And because we also have an amendment 3, would you like to tell us what, what partially means and what's not? Where's that money coming from?
Yep, so it included as part of the budget, it was, originally, it was supposed to be $68,000 that was included as part of the capital improvement planning for the project. So that was budgeted as part of, partially the 2025 budget, I believe, for the majority of those fees, but then it also extended over into 2026. So as part of this, from what was indicated from REL, was that as part of this, it is required to move forward with the, at least the services, not saying anything about the amendment, but at least the services that would be provided as part of this amendment in order to comply with the Transportation Alternative
Because we got
Program
the TAP grant,
requirements.
so we didn't expect this.
But I thought when we bid it with REL, that it was with the TAP grant and
Yeah.
everything, like what, I'm a little like what changed between then and now to cause this extra that we wouldn't have known about that, or they wouldn't have known about when they bid it?
It's
Right.
double.
So I know, so what I can say is that it was planned for 68, as that was initially what was planned as part of the capital improvement planning. And that I think it would be best if Jennifer had an opportunity to provide any input as to why it's there. My understanding is I know that these are listed as requirements, for the program.
And,
But I'm-
and that's, but before we get to Jennifer, I'm asking you, where is the money coming from?
Well, it would likely come from reserve funds if that was the case to be approved.
So I'm wondering though, it's with TAP grants. I wonder if this is just typical and, oh, by the way, you're gonna need this, this and this too. I don't know anything about TAP grants.
So for TAP grants, I mean, it depends. I do know that for any DOT related project is that in order to move forward with anything, you need to meet their specifications, which are
Completely
higher
understand that, but
normal
is it,
standard.
is it kind of SOP that like, oh, by the way, you're getting 67,000, but it's probably gonna be 126,000?
Didn't we have like 3 or 4 different engineers that we looked at for this when we put it out?
It was competitively procured per the requirements of the program for that, I believe.
Okay, so a question for Robert E. Lee is, did you know about these requirements when you issued the contract? Or are these new requirements?
These requirements were listed as not included in our contract, because a lot of these items, like the hazmat and the wetland delineations and stuff like that, we wouldn't really know until we get into design what the impacts would be. And if there's more impacts outside the right of way, it's going to drive your cost up more for those services. The right of way plat also was not included, as well as the real estate. The additional curb ramps and crossings that came up in conversation from the PIM, the public involvement meeting with the aquatic center going in. There was a lot of positive feedback that they wanted an extra crossing, so that requires extra survey, extra design and documentation for that crossing and curb ramp to happen.
So there was some things that would not have been anticipated until maybe you got into design. Would that be fair?
That's
for some of
correct.
the items? And then
Yes.
some of the items came out of the public informational meeting.
Correct.
For the curb ramp related.
Yes.
And I could ask a question about additional crossing. Does that mean crossing 57?
Correct. So the trail right now is on the west side of 57. The aquatic center would be on the east side. And given the amount of families and young people that would be using the trail to access that facility, as well as other facilities on the highway, Julie and the public felt it was a safer option to have another crossing in that location.
They're gonna put a
So
crosswalk
wouldn't
on
that have to
57?
be a design change approved by the committee? Because I know we talked about the Canterbury Lane crossing approved it, but not the aquatic center crossing.
So 57 would have two. They would have one at Canterbury and then one up by the medical facility further north.
Well, Canterbury is
The medical.
the medical facility. So I
I think
think
hold
what you
on.
mean is,
So we're just talking in terms of the staff report, but we do know where you're talking about for the second crossing.
Okay.
So that was a decision that was made by the administrator with the public input meeting. So that is news to us here at Parks.
I think we talked about it at plan.
oh, okay.
We talked about it somewhere. I remember having the conversation and it wasn't. Could it have been at plan?
I don't. I'd have to go back and look. I don't recall, but I'm not saying.
I remember the conversation.
Yeah, the only time it came here was when we talked about the Canterbury, we talked about possibly for a future aquatic center that was being planned, and the discussion at that time was like, it hasn't even been approved, and that was way back, so that will come to that when it needs to be decided. It seems like that was a miss for coming to this committee.
Yeah, I generally think it's probably a good idea, but it's also, you can have mission creep on this, and all of a sudden we're looking at doubling the cost on
It
here.
is double already. Went from 67 to 122.
For the design service.
That's not quite double, it's getting close.
Okay.
Another question I have was the easements, because I recall that
Yep. Letters went out. So, yeah.
the letters went out, but then there was a comment, I think that Julie had said at one point that we don't need to worry about easements because we're going to do it all in the right of way, which kind of changed it a bit and.
Well, I thought we were just going in the right of way where we couldn't get ready agreement on the easement,
Okay,
which I think was just like one or two parcels.
okay.
Well, I think the Shoals was one of them. Pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Now there's a handful.
I mean, agreements. Okay.
So to
I thought
clarify
we-
that,
Agreements weren't going out until we got farther down this project. I know we had conversations about that long time ago, like on the front end of this. But it was actually supposed to, those letters to be signed, were supposed to come more at the tail end.
They got letters a year or two ago. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
2 years ago.
Right.
Mhm. But the letter said, the letter didn't give details, which is why a lot of people didn't want to sign it.
There was no actual, this is the easement, it was just a,
I
Very
thought there's new letters that are going to go out.
That's what they're doing, right?
I'm not quite sure. It depends whether it was documented in a meeting, but yes, as part of it is that part of these services would be for, we're talking just acquisition related items, or for real estate, it'd be for the right of way plat preparation, which would be involving the title research surveys, easement description, and then as part of amendment number 3, it would be included for the negotiation services and for the appraisal services. So essentially everything that's associated with the acquisition related process for the TAP grant. And I know just based on my past experiences that when you do involve any of those funding sources, it essentially amplifies what the requirements are for acquisition services, and that it becomes more difficult to meet the compliance standard.
So a moment ago, Jennifer said she could clarify something.
Yep.
So
Jennifer, is there?
yes. So we are at that point in our design that we can go forward with the right-of-way plat, which then would generate the acquisition to happen, that process to happen. So we're at that point now where we need the amendment for the right-of-way plat to happen in order to move forward and have a real estate company have those conversations with the property owners.
So my
Have
other,
a real estate company have those conversations?
So, well, that's part of the next related, one is that part of it is that for Moss and Associates, is I believe what she is referring to
is that number 3?
for number 3, yes, but
Who's Moss and Associates?
So
It
it'd be
says
stuff-
retained by the village. I didn't know we retained anybody.
so it just would be in terms of contracted, if you want to put it for a synonym there, but just in terms of us, it could be something for contracting directly with them, or it could be that relationship for that. But in either case, it would be an opportunity to clarify that as part of the amendment number 3.
And that will cost us even more than the 6,100?
Yes, so this would be for 2 actions, one for amendment 2, one for amendment 3, both have.
Right, I know. I'm talking about amendment 3, Moss, $6,100.
does that generate an amendment 4 later?
Is there other costs on top of what Moss is gonna, the services Moss is gonna give us?
That would be a good opportunity for Jennifer if there are any expected amendments in the future.
Not at this time. The amendment 3 lays out the actual cost that Moss and Associates would request from the village based on the type of acquisition that would need to happen. I believe there's a breakdown between temporary and permanent impacts. And it also depends on how many properties would be impacted.
But then at some point, we have to pay for the impacted properties, right? So they would tell, so Moss would come back to us and say, you owe X.
Correct. Yep, the way Amendment 3 is set up is that it essentially kind of removes Robert E. Lee from direct contact with the real estate company, and that would just be between the village and the real estate company. Because we don't mark up any of our fees and stuff.
So who's Moss and Associates is not somebody I'm familiar with, not that I have to be. So who recommended them and who is Stero Appraisal that they were going to retain? And I
Yep.
mean, these are
We-
two companies I've never
Assuming
heard of,
coming
and
from
yet
that.
we're supposed to be hiring and paying them. And from my understanding, this has been out of our control here.
Yep, so we reached out to a handful of real estate companies and appraisal companies. And given the time frame that you guys have, there was these two people were the ones that were able to do it this year. Otherwise, you're looking at 2027.
So if it wasn't them, and again, I'm not, you're probably the most familiar, Denise. But if it wasn't them and that whoever we normally work with was available immediately, who would it be? Or
Just in terms of, before we get that, is there any specialty or anything that might be based on, specific knowledge associated with this program at all, Jennifer, based on the relationship? Was that a factor at all?
They have to be, yes, they have to be a DOT vendor.
There we go. I thought there might be something fancy appraisal.
that's why.
That was a good answer.
Okay, thanks for letting us know about that. All right, so now that the other, we think maybe the other shoe has dropped, any other shoes coming our way?
From me?
Yeah, well,
I get-
it's just a bit of a surprise. No, I'm not blaming you, not
Yeah,
blaming you.
no, I
It's a-
understand. I understand. It's tricky with these TAP funds because it is a
Right.
DOT process heavy, and there generally is $30,000 to $40,000, if not more, of added cost just to follow the DOT process with these kind of funds. We are approaching 60%, and once we get the real estate acquired, I don't really foresee anything else coming up. But at that point, your design's pretty final.
Could we put the whole trail inside the existing easement and avoid the real estate cost and administration of the real estate?
Good question. So the trail right now the physical trail is within the right-of-way line, meeting the clear zone minimum for that highway. There is gonna have to be some real estate on, I think, all the parcels just to do with the drainage and culvert replacements. And just to have overall construction of the trail itself. So it's gonna be a mixture of temporary and some permanent wires.
So similar to when the highway was redone downtown and the DOT got easements. They paid us for the easements so that they could work in them. And then when the project was done.
Yes.
Before the temporary, for that one.
Yep.
That's how this would work?
What she described is as a mixture of both,
I
but they
see.
would be
Okay.
handling the
Okay.
work that's related to it to keep it moving forward.
Right.
And I guess, I hate to say it, because I know you always say, you hate putting it on a timeline per se, because it is the village's timeline, but essentially the DOT to keep the project moving forward, will just need to know, essentially what a status update in terms of if we procured for these services and whether or not we anticipate to maintain the timeline for September 2026 for construction. So that is something that we've had correspondence with the DOT asking for an update.
It seems like from an option standpoint, if we want the trail to continue, these are required things. I guess we can think about it in the future, knowing that accepting TAP money means we have to spend extra.
30 grand.
And we can think
Money
about
effort.
that on future TAP projects, just knowing that they're more expensive because you accepted the funds.
I have a saying about that, Jerry. Free money's never free.
All right, do we need any more discussion?
So then our recommendation would be to, recommend approve, amendment 2 and 3 to the tune of about $48,000+ to the village board. And recommending that undesignated balance funds are used to pay.
Yes, if you wanted to allocate it for that far, is it typical for that if there is any unbudgeted expenses? That's where it would likely come from, but just a clarifying question.
So the only other thing I want to say that we should pass along there is there could be some easement expense as well on this.
Yeah.
There will be
will be.
expense costs.
So that is,
There will be.
and we don't know what that is.
Do we have an estimate?
No, that would come from Moss and Associates.
It would.
I mean,
depend on
in
the-
your work, you don't know what the average would be for something like this along a state highway? I would think there'd be some standards someplace.
There's a lot of variability based on where you're located, the type of property that it's used for, what county you're in. So I don't have that data.
Okay, well, not like we have a choice. All day.
Ben, have you thought about areas where you can underspend to kind of keep the village on budget for 26?
I mean, in terms of the actual, month end, I mean, it could be something for, talking with Jennifer, if there is anything in terms of the design for potential alternatives that would allow us to maintain requirements for DOT, and also potentially, come in at or under budget as well.
I think, didn't we also in this budget, I thought we created a new line item, not a contingency, but another line item for projects that pop up. Maybe I did that at finance, not here at Parks.
I being on finance, Denise, I think you did make that suggestion and we all thought it was a good idea. I don't recall if it actually got approved or not, but you'd remember better than me.
Don't remember taking it back out, and I thought it was,
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
$75,000.
Yeah, I don't recall, but that'd be good. What, just one other cost and regulation related question. Are we able to put crosswalks across Highway 57 because the DOT is involved here? So they give us the specifications and they do it to their spec, or how is that happening?
Yeah, I mean, like, what if we engineer it and then the DOT says no? Or is it part of a TAP grant, so it's implied that they're gonna say yes?
Jennifer, has that been discussed previously to confirm that that would be acceptable with what was recommended from the public informational meeting?
Yes, we've had conversations with the DOT on that, and there are 2 separate permits that you have to apply for that to happen. And that's in the work.
It's in the works, but not approved necessarily.
The one crosswalk by Canterbury is in the works.
Yeah,
The other
we-
one further south is decided on Amendment 2.
Okay.
Is there a high likelihood that that would go through? Is there any like hangups for that?
If we pass
Not
it.
that I'm aware of at the moment.
Well, before we move ahead with that, we should have some degree of certainty that that is allowed, because that would be an absolute waste of money if we did the engineering for a crosswalk and then the DOT said, no, you can't do it.
Except that, I think, did you just mention that we're waiting to, it needs approval for Amendment 2? Before they say, yeah, you can, right?
Is there any conditional, or is it just that the permit's being the permit is in the permit process and that this is running concurrently, or is there any dependencies?
There's no dependencies other than Amendment 2 being signed for us to finish the design for the southern crosswalk.
Which do you need to finish the design to get the permit?
Correct, yes.
There is some.
Gotta do it anyway.
Both
Okay.
both have been in conversation with the DOT, so they are aware of it.
And thank you for answering the questions, Jennifer. We do appreciate it.
As part of our motion, do we have to say where the funds are coming from, or we pass it?
I don't think we have in the, have we, I don't know if we have in the past, but.
I know Denise was asking just because
Yeah,
she's trying to
Realis-
the end process, but for our committee, I don't think we say.
no, I mean, realistically,
It's
we're,
going to the boards.
it's an unbudgeted item, and that if approved, it would be something that would come from reserve funds, so.
Alright. So in that case, I move we approve amendments 2 and 3 to continue the, or approve recommending to the board.
I made that motion already.
Well, you didn't say motion, then I second.
Well. Okay, well, I second Denise's motion. Sorry, Jared.
Okay,
Just a quick discussion point before we vote. In this motion, do I have the number right? $48,000 incremental we're approving with an unknown on the value of the land to be acquired?
It's more than that,
48,500.
48,500, well. Okay.
And that's what we know, and then we don't know the value of the property that will be acquired. Is that correct?
right,
Yeah, there's 12 parcels. So
We don't,
yeah, we don't know.
take
we
a
still don't
guess.
know.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Aye.
Okay. So, Steve, thank you for your patience. Okay, this would be, we are going to be talking about the pickleball policy.
Yes.
1 second, we're gonna have discussion with, let's, see if Ben has anything with background or overview he'd like to discuss with us, or otherwise we can just have a general discussion and Steve can speak up.
Yeah, I mean, essentially just coming on board, new to the team, just, as with most of these things, just provided.
We skipped an agenda item.
No, I think it's just out of order in the packet, but the
Oh, okay.
pickleball is what's there.
Okay,
Sorry.
gotcha.
So the pickleball item, so essentially as part of some past committee meetings, it was discussed to review a policy that incorporated a first come, first serve element and only allowed club officials to make reservations, and then would direct staff to update the signage. So there was some additional background information in terms of some of the issues that arose that bubbled to the forefront as part of this. But essentially just keeping things moving forward from the December 2025 meeting. I did provide just some general thoughts based on the feedback that was provided from the interpretation of the committee meetings for a revised pickleball policy that incorporated the different components for it. And just generally, to keep things moving forward, it would be an opportunity for the Parks Committee to evaluate the current policy to see if it meets the requirements or if there are any items to retool or to review or postpone the issue to a later date based on the information. So what has been provided as an attachment would be the current pickleball policy and the fee schedule, which is listed here on page 35, and then starting the fee schedule is on 37. And the fee schedule is included because it was proposed to have the amount for reserving for an hour listed from $5 to $20, which I believe would be updated as part of the fee schedule. And then just lastly here, just wanted to make a note that there would be some nominal financial impact as part of this, for both receiving additional revenue potentially and also updating any of the project signs and reposting to the location as well.
Okay, so in the December 26th meeting, I think that we agreed upon moving toward a policy where only official clubs, York County Pickleball, club can reserve. And I think at this point, it's 3 mornings a week, 2 hours each. And after that, it's a first come, first serve system for all others outside of the official club's time. This is my notes. And then there's signage, updated signage, which is in the packet. And then evaluation, so monitor and we can revisit or evaluate, let's say, and see if we need to revisit this policy. So, Steve, am I correct? Steve, spoke up, I think, called the office and wanted to have, or at least give some input or have a discussion about it. Is that right?
Yep, so essentially just with anything related to policy matters, it's not anything, there was the direction of the board moving forward, but
Yeah.
in terms of anything, it would be the appropriate mechanism to discuss with the committee chair regarding any of the policy efforts, unless it's questions about the specific existing policy for reserving a court. So we've referred over to you as the chairperson for this committee and had some discussion
Okay,
about the policy, and it was in previous communication if you wanted to open anything up for any public input component as part of this as well.
okay. All right, so we've talked about this on and off for a long, long time, Steve. As you may or may not know, but so if you want to just give us your input, introduce yourself. I've talked to you for a long time over the years, before we even, I think, put striping in for our pickleball courts. But, and then if you, as I said to you on the phone, 3 or 4 minutes of explaining who, what, where, when, and give us a general overview.
Well, my name is Steve Gerzovic. I'm with the Door County Pickleball Club. I'm a board member. And I just thought I'd give you a quick background on it, if I can. You know, pickleball was developed in 1965 by 3 guys out in Washington. They were hitting a plastic wiffle ball around with some ping pong paddles. And they had a dog named Pickles that used to go and retrieve the ball. And that's where the crazy name came from, pickleball. It's the fastest growing sport in the United States right now. And we've been securing courts here for at least 3 years. I want to say 5 years.
Yeah, probably.
And so we're lining up for this year. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Door County Pickleball Club. It's a nonprofit organization. Nobody's paid. There's 550 to 600 members. I can tell you many members from Sister Bay, many. I could name a bunch of them, but they're your neighbors. There's a lot of people right here in this town that play pickleball and are members of the club. It's $30 per year. We have some, I wouldn't say partnership, but we have communities that support the club. Egg Harbor, Fish Creek, Sevastopol, Sturgeon Bay, Washington Island, Brussels, and Sister Bay is where we play. I would say the Sister Bay courts are the best in all of Door County. I'm a little bit biased because I live here, and but frankly, whoever designed that sports complex and put those courts in, and whoever thought about putting conifers all the way around it, that was fantastic. They're just beautiful courts, and a lot of people play them 7 days a week, club members and not club members, all summer and all fall long. I can tell you that if you've ever been down there, you would see it. There's many people that do it. So what do we do with the fees? Well, we promote tournaments, and we did have a tournament here in Sister Bay.
Yep.
I'd like to do 4 of them this year. We had one last year in the fall. We had about 100 people at the courts on a Saturday morning for about 5 hours. It was very successful. We bring in instructors to teach people how to play pickleball. We buy all the nets. I just bought 4 new Selkirk nets for these courts right here. They cost $200 a piece. And we bought all of them. We provide all the balls. We provided about 200 pickleballs last year. They cost about $2 a piece. And we keep the balls in, if you've been down there, you've seen it. We keep them in nets on the fence. And everybody, whether they're members or non-members, citizens, non-citizens, get to use those nets and get to use those balls. In a lot of courts, we provide windscreens. We don't have to do that here because you got the conifers. We also provide first aid kits. So anybody twist a knee or twist an ankle, we have first aid kits right on site. We provide squeegees and rollers, and we squeegee and roll the courts. I can't tell you how many times we did it last summer. We also blow the courts off with blowers. I did it at least 5 times myself with my leaf blower. We pick up all the bottles. We're proud of the courts. We live here, and we want to maintain them the best we can. We want people to play here. We encourage people to play. it's an encouraging, in fact, anybody in this room that wants to play, I can help you get started. We really want people to play the sport. We're very encouraging. We're happy to start a new season. And we're hoping, we can, continue on with the courts. We typically secure them from the first week of June to the end of August on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And I did at some point, and maybe it's the next bullet, the fees have gone up pretty dramatically. If there's a point where I can just talk about that, whether it's the next bullet or here, that's fine. But we're thankful. We're very thankful to Sister Bay,
Okay.
and very, very happy to provide everything and be part of this.
Well, that's really good information. First of all, some of it I didn't even know, and thank you. And I just want to confirm that at this point, you guys, sorry, this is the Door County Pickleball Club. You can reserve dedicated court time from 9 to 11 a.m., 3 days a week, Memorial Day through Labor Day. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't done it yet. I haven't put the form in, but that's what we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, and what's your fee?
What has the fee been?
Yeah, what is it current? What's it been and what is it
I
going?
think it has been, it was either $5 or $10 per tennis court per day for a 2-hour period.
So
But
for
it
the
did
season,
go up. At
what,
least
for the
it's
season, do you know?
Going up.
For the season, do you know what it was, or should I?
Oh,
do the math?
how much do we pay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to, somewhere between 500 and 800. I can't remember the exact amount.
I haven't,
We paid.
well, this is old, but this is from 2024 and it was $400, but hold on. It was
At 25, I
$400.
extended it a little bit, so it probably was closer to 500.
Okay, so it just depends on the number of days you actually use it. You don't pay for it up front. Do you pay weekly or
No, we pay for it up front.
pay for it up front?
Yeah,
Okay,
we give you the money right when we give you the form,
okay.
or
You-
right after we give you the form.
Have you submitted the form yet for this year?
Have I? No,
Yeah,
I was
no,
waiting.
yes.
I wanted to do this. I have it right on my kitchen table. I
Okay,
can submit it this week.
okay. And do you know what the fee is for this year?
Well, I heard it was gonna be $20, which is substantially more, and especially with all the money we're spending on the nets and the balls. But I don't know what the actual fee is yet.
So $20 per day, correct?
Per court, per tennis court, per day, yes. So we usually rent both tennis courts. Or we use both tennis courts. So for us, it would be $40 per day or $120 a week, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, versus now it's 60, I believe.
As I remember it, and I'm getting old and become frail here, my memory shot, but I thought we paid $10 a court per day last year. I think we paid $10, $20 per day, $60 a week. So I think it's double, I believe,
So,
or it's proposed to be double.
okay, our clerk is not here. However, Eric, you got some knowledge of this?
Yes, he is correct. So our current fee was $5 per court per hour. So they were scheduled for 2-hour slots. He was paying $10 per court.
$10 per court per
Yes.
day.
Yep. And now we're going to go,
So that's $20 since they used both courts.
correct. Now we're going up $20 per court for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's a double.
Yes, yeah. So everything just doubles.
So when it was 10, that was still 2 hours.
Well, we had the option, they could do it for.
Yeah, it must have been, 'cause it
They
was from
did
9
it,
to
they
11,
always did
yeah.
it for 2.
Okay,
The current change is gonna be $20 for 2 hours.
well, I'm reading 2024 and it says 9 to 11, so it was 2 hours then too.
I think that was the blocked off exclusive time.
Doesn't mean that's what they used. Okay.
Yes, so that was.
Organized play, for anybody, whether you're a member or a non-member.
Okay, so $20 a court for 2 hours and you use 2 courts, so that's $40, right?
It used to be 20, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So you wanted, I'm assuming that you want to talk to us about the increase in the fee. I don't want to cut you off, but to have it exclusively, And for the amount, for the cost, for what, and I understand some of the Bay residents use it, believe me, I do. And I understand that you appreciate that our taxpayer dollars go to maintain the sports complex, whether it's pickleball or anywhere else. I don't know that we can say our way clear to reduce it back down to 25 levels. Having said that, the other way to look at it maybe, and I don't know what other places charge, to tell you the truth. If they do, if they don't, whatever, you can, I'm sure you'll tell us that. But I don't know that $10 was, I don't know what it should be. That's an easy way to say that, you know? But how many people, when you're playing, how many people play on, for that 2-hour period? How many people are playing?
You know, there's, I mean, on any given day, it can range anywhere from 12 to 16 to 40. We've had as many as 100. We had this bike club came out one day, like 100 of them.
Yeah.
And filled the course. It was actually kind of funny to
Yeah.
see so many people show
Well,
up.
we really appreciate your enthusiasm. We really appreciate you guys engaging and really utilizing the courts. And we fully appreciate the fact that at some point, some of those folks stop for coffee. They stop for something to eat or completely. But you can also understand that for us, I mean, at some point, those courts are gonna have to be updated. And 12 to 16 people for, you know, for what would be the equivalent of $40 doesn't. So maybe, and I don't pretend to know anything about your business or your nonprofit and what's fair to charge or anything, but at some point, maybe you should consider absorbing some of those costs, because I was here when we put that striping in, and that was in 2018. That's a while ago.
The striping for the pickleball courts?
Yep.
Yeah, we redid it in 24.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Eric, did you know that?
Yes, they got permission to redo them.
Well, that went right over my head.
We are spending about $1,200 to $1,500 a year on all the equipment for
Yeah.
non-members or members and all
Yeah.
citizens
Yep,
and non-citizens. I would tell you, since you did ask,
interesting.
we don't pay anything in Egg Harbor, Fish Creek, Sebastopol, Sturgeon Bay, Washington Island, or Brussels. We are we've got some new courts in Ephraim that we're looking at, and I believe there will be a fee there of some sort.
Yeah, are those their old tennis courts or?
Yeah,
current
the tennis courts over there by their,
Up
they're
on
gonna
Dayton,
allow us to strike one tennis court.
up
So
on
we
Norway?
multi-use.
Did we also hear too that, when people showed up, that were not part of the club, that the club was asking them to pay a $5 fee?
I didn't hear that, but
It's true, it was in 24 back. We were asking for a $5 drop-in, but we didn't do that last year.
okay.
We were
Because-
instructed that we couldn't do that, and we shouldn't do it, we
Correct.
didn't do.
All right.
Well, probably not because they're public courts. So that's a good-
Right.
You know, that would be a good idea. We'll take it under consideration. You know, there's no guarantees, as I said to you, Steve, you know, our costs aren't going up and I mean, I understand that no one else charges but us. I get it. And I understand you're also investing in our public pickleball court, so it's something that we can discuss, but I don't have any answers for you. I'm happy to have discussion from any of the committee members. As we've talked.
The only thing I would add to this is that I think it's important that those courts are available to our residents, to visitors, really to whomever wants to play on them. And you know, we are a little worried about the rotation and making sure people get to play, that the courts aren't kind of managed exclusively by the pickleball club or presented as owned by the pickleball club. That's a public asset and it's available to anyone who wants to play. And there have been a few incidents that were noted over the years. It's not worth going over them, but we want to make it easy for people to get access to the courts.
And Steve, you know, we've moved to a first come, with the exception, of course, of your club, we've moved to a first come, first serve.
aware of that, yeah.
Yeah.
And we encourage everybody to play, you know, I don't know what happened years ago, but I can tell you that certainly last summer, nobody from the pickleball club discouraged anyone. We encourage them, actually.
Yeah.
I encourage anybody here to
And you
play.
know what, I think it was more, what we were realizing at the administrative level was courts being reserved. This is not just showing up and playing. Courts being reserved by multiple different people. And it looked like they were just trying to game the system of reserving courts, so. Let's try to we just try to create a level playing field. This was not at all punitive. It wasn't. It was just trying to make them available to any pickleball player and probably any tennis player, but. You know, so that's why it was done. That's it.
I think if I can make one more comment, the ability to have organized play tells anybody that's coming into town that doesn't even live here or lives here, that there's gonna be play there, and that there's gonna be nets and balls and everything available for them.
Okay,
Which I think is important to note, because if you don't have that, if you don't have the nets and the balls and you don't have the organized play, you won't have a lot of people playing there.
but but you offer us the organized play, correct?
3 days a week, correct?
Right, okay,
But the nets and the balls and everything else are offered 7 days a week,
I understand,
whether you're
Yeah.
members or non-members, citizens or non-citizens.
okay. So I'm looking at the new signage.
So that is not the new signage, that is just what's existing and then just showing it in terms of.
All right, so we
text.
need to fuss. with
Oh,
that.
yeah, because that is horrible wording,
Okay, so we'll,
atrocious.
okay, so we'll fuss with the signage. This is basically, this is what you pay if it's reserved, and if not, because we could probably put a QR code on there and do some other stuff and clean it up and things, and, we could probably also, it's a tennis court, but it's also a pickleball court. And we could also
All
talk.
right,
about
why
that.
doesn't it talk about pickleball on the sign? Yeah.
It will, because they're old, and so we need to do something else there, something different there.
Can I just ask a clarifying question here?
Sure,
So just in terms of moving forward with the policy, so my understanding is based on prior discussion, this is the 2024 policy, right? And that there is a few things that were up for discussion, that were discussed within 2025.
yep,
Is that something in terms of, still workshopping anything for the policy or any of the terms of the policy? Or is it that all of those terms are, it's found to be acceptable and it's finalizing the sign and moving on to implementation?
that's, I mean, for the committee discussion, but
Yeah.
my sense was it was finalized,
Well,
or,
one point of discussion, I think he mentioned Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday or something like that. And the sign says can be reserved by club, or the proposed changes say reserved by club Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
oh,
And so we may want to consider
Just-
adjusting that, if that's their established days.
so Steve, is it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday that you're?
Yeah, it was been that way, as I know, for the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay, all right,
I think we had Sunday also a few years back, but we were told last year we could only have 3 days versus 4, and so that's what we did.
I don't recall.
all right, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, so if that could be noted for the minutes. And so
Tuesdays.
Thursdays,
Thursdays,
Saturdays,
Saturday.
Times?
9 to 11.
9 to 11.
okay. I'm over there with my dog, he growls when he hears you, I'm just
If we
kidding,
have another
He's very
group that
nice.
comes forward,
Our dog loves dog.
where do we refer them to the committee here?
sorry, what?
If we have another group wanting to reserve, do we refer them to the committee here?
Sure, have them come to a parks meeting if they'd like to,
Or to
Anything.
be put on the agenda?
Well, it
No.
says reservations, official clubs only. Reservations are limited to recognized clubs.
So they file the form, based on my understanding, is that they file the form of each year by April 1st, and that then they would have the opportunity to then be approved by the Parks Committee for the year.
Mhm. Well, I don't think we have to approve them every year. I think if they apply and it meets the policy, the reservation is accepted.
Yes. That can, yeah, month in, I'm not saying anything, yet. That was just my interpretation of the reading.
but wait a second, I think that we'd want to review any new applications beginning in 26, right?
Well, I think what and correct me if I'm wrong for saying, is that essentially when you approve them, they're on the list, there's no need to revisit it back again each year.
They are
Yes.
part of the official clubs only list, and if they're reserving it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, they've filled up those slots, they've met the policy.
Oh, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I get, I'm talking about others. Besides the Door County.
That's correct. We have others that are
That's
interested.
what I was
So-
referencing.
But I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna clarify, based on the past discussion, what the preference was that anytime in the AM, there'd be an opportunity to reserve the court, similarly to how the courts are reserved for them. For the 2-hour block for 20 minutes, but there would be no reservation within the PM, but it'd be a first come, first served. And that's why, just in terms of reviewing the policy, is there anything,
Yeah,
you know?
looking at the policy as it's written, there, you can't reserve other.
Yes, that's what it'd be first come, first serve, anything in the PM, but you can reserve,
PM is anytime afternoon.
yes.
Okay, because we need to be much more specific about this. Okay,
Yeah, I'm just looking at page 45 of the packet, that's the proposed
yeah,
wording, right?
okay.
And item 2, reservations. Reservations are limited to recognized clubs approved by the Village of Sister Bay. Clubs may reserve courts between 9 AM and 11 AM on. It'll be changed likely to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. No afternoon reservations, afternoons first come, first served. So by the strict wording of that, that wording seems to say to me, you can't ever reserve it outside of 9 to 11, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Well, that needs to be changed because Door County Pickleball Club is 9 to 11, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
So if they reserved it, there would be no other reservations by the wording as I read it from number 2 now.
So if the general policy is 7 days a week from 9 to 11, it's available, except
See, I have a
Tuesday,
problem with that.
Thursday, Saturday.
Because I thought we touched on this, that, somebody brought it up in one of the conversations about, if it's open play only after 11 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay, at the height in the summer, at
When it's
least,
hot.
when it's hot. And if you would allow another pickleball club to come in and do the opposite days of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday,
And all
there's
the good
pretty much
times are
no
locked up.
morning play. I'm not okay with that.
That's true, there isn't.
Which is, I think, why we
Why it
ended
was
up
written
at
that way.
this writing.
Which means which would mean that the only days that are reserved,
The only time slots allowed are Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 9 to 11. And only official clubs can reserve, and we have an official club that reserves every year.
point to find official club.
So just to clarify, no members of, if they were an individual not associated with this club, they wouldn't reserve.
That's the wording here, and
Well-
that's what we talked about.
Can I say one thing about
I'm
Tuesday,
just-
Thursday and Saturday?
Yeah,
It's anybody can play on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Anybody that shows up can play on that day. Nobody's turned back and they don't have to pay. Even though we're reserving the courts, if they show up and they're non-members or they are members, they're allowed to play. So there's no restrictions.
So assuming that the courts will be reserved Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday in the mornings. Then, and we want to make the rest of the days of the week from 9 up until 11 available to everybody, then everything else has to be first come, first served.
yeah, which is the goal of
That's what I thought it
writing it
was.
like this is
Yeah.
to open it up, reduce administrative time, having to cycle through a
Right.
bunch of reservations all the time.
Yep.
And the problem that we had of individuals gaming the system to just rotate and reserve all the time, and then turn people away.
Yep. So,
Jerry, that's the way I recall the discussion too. You summarized it well, I think.
Eric,
And just a question for you.
Yeah.
Are we leaving a tennis court open as well during that time period that anybody can come and play? Cause I know that has been a point of emphasis too for the tennis players that wanted to play during that kind of time period too. And that was also part of the
Yeah.
discussion for those 3 days that the committee kind of decided to move forward with as well.
So to answer your question is we reserve both tennis courts for the 9 to 11 period. I can tell you that there were times last summer where we were only using two and somebody, they just played. Even during the reserve time.
Well, let's just pretend you're using both. So the answer to your question is the tennis courts aren't available. Just pretend that that's the
Yeah.
case. I mean, because otherwise it's unreliable and a tennis player
That's
is
true.
not gonna, they're gonna be like, no, we're not going pickleball players. Let's just try to not disappoint. So if that's the case, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, they're reserved by somebody, some kind of club. Everything else is first come, first served. Right? Is that what I'm hearing? Everybody? Yeah?
And you
Okay.
said you're a nonprofit, so you're a 501c3,
We are a 501,
not C3, C.
we're not a C3, we're
We're
C,
C6.
C7.
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 Okay, do we want to incorporate that into our wording? That you must be a,
Go nonprofit.
Well, maybe official clubs, parentheses.
I don't know what an official club is. Anybody can say they're official club.
Yeah, well, then that,
right,
to
that's.
Denise's point, that makes it
Saying that you
official.
should add that verbiage to it. A nonprofit organization.
Okay, perfect. I was gonna say, it probably should just be, you know, something standard in terms of nonprofit status. And
Yeah.
they could provide that as part of the application
Yes.
process.
Okay. I have on here, Steve, that it's due, your reservations are to be made by April 1st. Is that what you thought?
Yes,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I'm ready anytime.
Sarah, does that work for you? Or is
Yes.
I'm sorry, I should know this. You taking those reservations or
I am.
you are? Okay. All right.
Yeah, the only thing I need to know is if there is any, just consideration for the fee, and if that,
At this time, there may not be.
okay.
So we'll try, but doubtful.
Should I follow up with Sarah in a week or something, or what's the next step?
In terms of paying the fee and getting booking.
No,
If there is
he
any
wants to know for
consideration
later.
for reduced fee.
Oh,
And I kind of said in as nice a way as I could, we probably aren't.
yeah, there's no action right now.
Okay,
Let's put it this way. Let's say we lower the fee. We'll give you a refund and we'll take it off next year.
Are you
Just
sure you
kidding.
wanna?
I'm not sure we're
Okay.
gonna lower the fee.
You can't make that commitment.
Kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
We're not gonna lower the fee. What we
Mm.
consider fees, let me put it this way, and I don't mean to be glib. That's
Well,
not
aren't
fair.
we just gonna make a motion and determine that all right now?
We can do that, but we do consider fees annually. Lately been doing it more than annually, but okay, motion. I'll make a motion.
Do we need a motion? Because we already voted on this at the last meeting.
I don't know if we did. Did we?
Well, we're going to adjust it. I think,
Okay.
so we vote, I think last meeting, we asked the administrator to draft some policy changes. The policy changes have been drafted and we want to tweak them on the days of the week. So I think, yeah, we need a motion.
Okay, so we did. We probably, then I'm wrong,
Yeah, because
we gave the administrator actions.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
okay, sorry.
yeah, because the notes here they weren't specific to the days, and I'm not sure about times, but they weren't specific to the days, Mike.
Okay,
So I will make a motion to approve the policy for the Sister Bay Pickleball Court reservation policy that the reservations will be limited to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. And requirements are that that be to a Door County pickleball, a nonprofit Door County Pickleball Club. Remaining times available for the pickleball court use is first come, first served. Kind of long-winded.
and the fees are per the previously approved fee schedule.
Yeah, if they want a reservation, and if they're not reserving, they're free, which is another conversation, but anyway. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye,
Aye, so moved. Next up.
And so somebody will work on new signage
Signage.
and
Yes.
present it to us.
Yes, that was my intention, that following this, there'd be some draft signage that would be prepared, that would be in alignment with what the adopted policy was, and just making sure that it aligned with
Yeah.
the style of the courts and the aesthetic and the language.
Yeah.
So,
Where would we post that on the village website?
so we would have the policy, the current policy is posted on the website. the revised policy, including the days that were revised.
Yeah.
And for the nonprofit status, that should be updated on the website as well. And then the summary would be the signage that would be posted with refer to this policy for more
Okay.
information.
And where do we put the sign? Where's the sign? Eric?
It is located
Right by
by
the door?
entry of the door, but up higher
Okay,
where you enter the court.
okay, but there's two signs here. Where's the other one?
There's two signs, I think they just typed that one out.
Yeah,
So I typed-
one of them's a visual representation.
Yes.
and one's
Gotcha,
epic.
okay,
One's a picture of the
Okay.
actual.
okay,
Frankly, I was already starting to work on what the new one might look like, but I just typed up the old one.
all right, great. Okay,
Make
next,
sure it's three-dimensional.
next up is 5H, facility rental fees, pricing for nonprofit organizations. Okay, we got the rental fee here, so we can resolve this. The rental fee schedule, right?
Yep, so this was again, just follow up from the last committee meeting. It's that there was some discussion about having fee rentals. Incorporate some type of fairness, competitive cost recovery, and that there have been historic discounts offered to nonprofits and to residents. And this was building up as part of previous discussions. And so this is an opportunity for a member of the Parks Committee to have any further discussions to evaluate what the policy would be moving forward. I think in prior motions, there was some additional research that was requested to analyze what their rates might be and analyze what the cost coverage was, just based on the timeline. I couldn't provide that information prior to the meeting, but it can definitely be something to clarify those items on what.
What page are we on?
37.
This one
If
was
we're
a little
looking
bit out
at
of
it
order
digitally.
for 31, 32.
Thank you.
And then, so some of the identified actions that could be taken would be to gather data on current usage fees, usage and fees that are existing. It can be compared for any neighboring communities for what they provide. They can analyze if there is any information that they're willing to provide about any expenses and how much break even. Just a few different things that can be analyzed as part of this, but there was not an opportunity to do an extensive analysis prior to the meeting. So just wanted to get clarification, coming in as the new guy here, about what information you would best need in order to make an informed decision moving forward.
Yeah, I think those action items identified of, what do other communities do? And what are our actual costs? Before we could recommend changing the fees.
Yeah, actual cost is one thing, but it's a mix. I only talked to 3 and it's a mix of, for nonprofits, don't charge or a 25% discount. It's a mix of both. There's really very little consistency. There's not one where I can, unlike the pickleball situation where I can say they never charge nonprofits.
Yeah, and just an important piece of information is as well, we have had some different nonprofit groups that have been asking as part of this as well, and that they're seeking clarification on if there is going to be any discounts for it. The form does indicate refer to the nonprofit fees, so I have not adjusted anything in terms of the forms for any rentals, but it doesn't list anything in the actual fee schedule in terms of the nonprofit fees for that. So it's referencing something, and there is nothing that it's actually referencing.
So the rental fee is, what we're really talking about is Village Hall, which is $200 a day currently.
And that's just norm for everybody.
Just,
Yep.
that's what it is. That's probably the one that's the most used, with the exception of the fire station. Large meeting room is $50 a day. The small one, which I'm not sure it's rented very often, it might be, but $25 a day.
So there is some language within the current forms about whether or not nonprofits get some type of discount, or it refers to fees that are specific to nonprofit organizations that are subject to alternative fees. And there's nothing that it references. So
No.
there's just an opportunity.
Well, we've
to-
never really been specific, so we need to.
Yes.
I think it's important that we realize that nonprofits have a very wide gamut of organizations that they are, and there are some organizations that are nonprofit that you might not otherwise think are, so there can be some unintended consequences on that. I think that one of the things you could do is say community-based nonprofits, because I think
Mr.
that's a little.
Davis to me.
I would even say if they're in Door County. I mean, if United Way of Door County wanted to come up there and do an event, would that? To me, that would be, community-based.
Mhm.
But just something to think about, because that'll surprise you.
Because the flip side of it is essentially the village, if we're not covering our costs, we're donating to whatever that nonprofit is to hold their event.
Yeah, I know that might be, maybe that is a worthwhile
mean,
event. Yeah, but for all the
For
organizations.
all intents and purposes, if it costs us 200 to open the hall for the day for them. And we charge them half because they're a nonprofit, just making something up. Essentially, the village is then donating to that nonprofit. And I know that's a
And
weird place to be in.
its taxpayers are donating.
Yes.
Right.
There's
So-
an opportunity cost.
What elements go into determining how much it costs? So utilities, what else? Staff,
Staff time, utilities.
they're supposed to clean up, and I think for the most part they do, but clean up after themselves. So it's cleanup and maybe prep, utilities, what else?
I think Eric included that cost in his staff report. Was it like 3,700?
Yeah, I ran the propane heating costs for you guys in the staff report.
Yep.
But we would need to know, and that was for last year, Eric. Okay, we would need to know though, how many, that doesn't include electricity. How many events were held there during the heating season
Cause it's not. even
for the
efficient.
$3,700 to make sense?
Mhm.
If nobody was in there, then that's our baseline.
I believe offhand, just one event was held in there.
In the
last
winter,
season.
Where it would have had to have been heated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do it annually. The name escapes me, but they do it every year.
Because isn't it that it's set to a certain temperature, but then for events it's raised?
Yes, they have the ability to raise the
And
temperature.
it takes forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is advised to maybe, if you were planning an event and you have it in a couple of days, maybe to go in there and raise the temperature if you're desiring a higher temperature in there.
so heating is $314 a month. So divided by 10 is, you can do the math, $31 a day. And then electricity, no idea, I don't even know if we could pull it out from our.
Right, but that's
You
just,
can't.
that's our sunk cost. We have to heat it to a certain level to keep
To maintain.
the
I gotcha.
infrastructure from having a problem.
Right, so let's say for that day, it goes from $30 to,
Well, we
Yeah.
could speculate a lot, or we could have
right,
Eric break it down for us. But I would think we'd want to set the fees to break even for the village, and my opinion is that's just what it
Yeah.
is. You may have a different opinion.
I mean, there is. Part of being a community is offering services to everybody, and part of that is community building, and I think that. I get that we don't want to spend a ton of money on that, but I don't think that we have to recapture every cost of everything we do if it's in the community's benefit. Now, do we have some challenges when we start endorsing one nonprofit over another? That's where I think the real challenge is, and that's.
Yeah, but
That's
the
why I like
big
one piece schedule.
conversation that was brought up, that was pretty contentious at the board meeting was, why should one of our local residents spend $200 to have a birthday party? Well, I think it's the villages or the taxpayers of the village to subsidize somebody's birthday party in, a publicly owned structure. Even if it's in the off season when that actually costs us more because we have to heat it. It's not just about nonprofits.
Yeah, we did talk about, and then, I am in favor of giving residents a discount, and it's easy to, somewhat easy, I think.
Well, I
No,
think
that
we
was not
discussed this,
part.
there's
Discount,
too many
not
work.
free.
products.
Not free,
That's what we had before, and that's why we got rid of it, because everybody else is subsidizing it. I shouldn't have to pay for Mike Termini's daughter Zinnia to have a birthday party down there. I
Right.
love Zinnia. But I shouldn't have to pay for it.
But
I don't
so-
use the village hall. I don't use the library. There's a lot of things that
But
we
to Nate-
all paid for.
Right, to Nate's point, though, I mean, once, you know, when we did offer a residence discount, I'm not sure, I mean, do we have that many? But it just the ability, you know, to
Well,
have
yeah,
it.
they were all residents because as we found out, they were manipulating the situation to find a local to rent it.
Right, but how many, you know, it's, I mean, there's, but
But I think
no,
we
you
want to
shouldn't do
set a
that. I
policy
agree, you
that's
should not do that.
easy to enforce and doesn't take a ton of staff time.
Right.
But nonprofit or
Yeah.
not, resident or not, we have a fee and that's.
And that's it. It's a
Just-
user fee.
If
Who's
I
ever
might-
using it should pay the fee. And
well, we're gonna, there's always gonna be a difference of opinion, and I get that, so.
So I just want to add some additional information outside of the scope of what we offer in terms of services, but some of the other nonprofits did say, you know, it is a full fee. Not, NWTC does provide some of those services as well for reserving rooms, you know what I mean? Then the nonprofits aren't doing anything, it's not related to the actual resident discussion, but in terms of the nonprofit discussion, there are other alternatives out there in terms of, you know.
But I think that WBTC charges for that room,
That's what I'm saying, but I
Oh.
think they're a little bit less than what that would be for that fee.
200 for the big room. I don't
But it
know.
just depends whether or not the break even point, but just wanted to add that there are other alternatives that they are looking at, which you could view, you know, both ways, right? Is that there are other
Mhm.
opportunities, but
But the other thing too is,
WCC doesn't charge nonprofits.
that might be the
Yeah,
case.
so
Yeah, I
they,
didn't really
they
look.
offer their, I think, reservations for free for nonprofits.
for nonprofits, and then just flat fee for everybody else, whether they're Sister Bay or not, right?
To be honest,
I think,
I
I remember
haven't
back
asked that
when-
question, but-
because the SBA always got it for free, but I wasn't sure if that's because we were a nonprofit. But the other thing to think about too is, you know, if at some point we get a community center, just so you've got this, right? And then what does that morph into for, and maybe that's not a good comparison, because that's years
I
away,
think
but
we'll
I'm just
address that
saying.
when it comes up.
Well, or, I mean, the warming house, which is also a different animal, I guess, so I guess that's not relevant.
So just bringing it back around as well as that, you know, I know that there was some previous discussion for it. Is there anything in terms of the information that outside of the scope that Eric did not provide that would help make any decision, or is there a decision to be made? You know what I
I'd
mean?
really like to make a decision, this keeps coming back to us.
I would be inclined to say that we have and I understand a cost to heat it, there's some cost to heat it, but I think that we have a lower expense in the winter. When there's less demand for it, there's less people that are going to use it. And there's more need of community for gathering, for connectivity for people. So whatever that is, I think it's good for the village when people have connection for whatever event that is. So I think we should have it be half as much from,
So
say,
winter rate-
November 1st until,
Excuse me, a winter rate and a summer rate.
in,
So what do you think about that?
this goes along the, I'd say this is along the lines of the ice rink. Not everybody's gonna use it, but it's something that we should provide for our community to make a community a community.
What do you think, Jerry?
It seems like a simple way, we don't worry about.
Yeah, no, we don't worry
nonprofits or
about
not, or resident or not, we
nonprofits,
just have a
Yeah,
schedule. Something simple for Sarah to sign when people come into the office.
yeah.
will that make
For
it simple,
ID.
Sarah, or are we projecting upon you?
Right, currently, every nonprofit has a different rate. They're, because I'm in the position and finding now at the start of the year, everybody has a different rate that they have been paying, along the
Here?
way.
For either village hall or fire station,
Fire station is what I'm finding.
mostly the fire station. So it's the knitters and, or the quilters, who else?
The knitters, quilters, United Way for the tax, USAA or.
Yep,
Uh,
okay,
tax help.
okay.
Let's see,
Well, that's not surprising, because this goes back years.
correct, yeah,
Not surprising. So it's the large meeting room, right?
it's the, for the large meeting room.
So we had agreed on $50 a day. And some may be paying less than that now, and probably not very many people are paying more.
Correct, if they are a nonprofit, they are
They're not paying
paying,
anything.
it, like I say, it
There is no
varies.
standard in the past for that event.
I'm just for general information, because we're going to be reaching out and saying, okay, the fee is now 50. So we have 3 or 4 organizations that may be paying $25 more per day, although they come let's set the quilters aside for a minute.
There
We have,
okay.
are there many that use it every week?
We have the knitters
Yep.
that come in, and I don't know if are charged. I know
Okay.
that the quilters and the knitters donate to the firehouse some of their made goods, so they can supply those to those in need during fire and EMS calls,
Okay,
is what my
they
understanding was. So
probably are
there's
the
some sort of
heaviest
exchange
users.
there.
They're probably the heaviest users, right? Once a week, a couple times a month.
So I mean, it's here, right? I mean,
It's right in this room.
yeah, I mean, in terms of the heating cost, is there anything in terms of a policy that might be more location based? Like if there was a carve out or anything like
Well,
that?
it sounds like we may want to talk about the fee schedule for this building in particular, since the official one is much higher than most of the current users are paying.
Well, it's $50 a day, and if they're
What do we
here,
mean by a day? Is that 8 hours?
I don't think we've ever defined
I
it.
believe that it includes at least part of the, I think at least as part of the form, it says from 7 until 10, I think technically is for a
PM?
day rental, yeah.
That's one thing, but okay.
Really? 15 hours?
I'd have to check for here, but I know for some of the other forms, but I can quick check the website.
So the quilters, for example, if they use it twice a week, would pay $5,200. If it was $50 a day.
Let's see, the Trillium quilters come in twice a week.
Twice a week, I'm sorry, yeah.
And
So it's $100 a week times 52 weeks. 5,200.
correct, and that is not nothing.
Yeah, I know, and then that's the quilters. What about the knitters? Same thing?
I don't
kinda?
know, I don't know if they,
No, I mean, how often they come?
the knitters come. Let's see here.
Probably about a couple times a week.
Every Wednesday.
All right, so
Seems like the fire station, though, the actual cost of renting the room would be pretty low to the village. Like how much it actually costs when somebody rents the room.
So if we didn't charge them anything at all, I'm not suggesting that, just, we would be out $7,600.
Well, I would have to imagine that if they go from paying $5 a month to 300 or whatever, it wouldn't.
They won't.
Right. We just have upset people and they wouldn't.
Right,
I think that currently the quilters, I believe, they pay $20 per day when they meet.
oh, they do.
They do,
Okay.
or that's what they paid in 2025. And I believe that was, and they were cutting a check, or they were going to fill out their paperwork and send me a check for that $20 a day.
Versus 25, which is what we're versus
So they use the
50,
large or the small?
which is 50. They use the large.
They use the large,
Yeah, currently this says 50.
So
and they use
$30
the room from 9 to 1 PM.
Half the time, okay?
And again, I believe they do donate many of their quilts to the firehouse.
Which is lovely.
for
But we
whatever
think the
reason.
knitters maybe,
And they are a nonprofit.
okay,
The knitters, I don't know much about the knitters. They're here every
we
Wednesday.
think you kind of know that we haven't received funds, so.
I have not, and I have not been in I don't know how to contact the
Okay,
knitters firsthand. I don't have their paperwork.
we could figure that out, all right.
I do want to mention, sorry to interrupt, but we do have a few folks that do rent the village hall regularly, and that would be the Girl Scout troop.
Okay.
And I believe they were billed in 2025 $50 for the year to use the village hall for 2 hours or 3-hour block a month. Typically, it was on a Sunday or whenever it was available.
So once a month,
Once a month it was a 2 or 3 hour block, and it was $50 for the year.
that's $2,400. It's a
But
lot of cookies.
it was during the school year. They did not meet during the summer
All
months.
right, so it's probably,
And we also have, of course, our American Legion that meets monthly on the first month, or the first Monday of the month. And I believe they were also billed $50 for the year.
And that's at the Village Hall, not here, right?
Village Hall, that's correct, and they use that facility 3 hours. Every Monday. I believe it's in the basement, that's where the armament is. Is that correct?
I don't think they're meeting in the basement.
No, they meet I went to a meeting right before Fall Fest, and they meet or upstairs. In the
Yeah, we don't use the
main-
basement
The main
anymore.
area.
If there is conflict, they do meet in the basement if there's conflict.
Oh,
If there's somebody else renting about. Or they have in 2025, that was.
So that says if we enforce our fee schedule, there will be many groups upset. Because.
Girl Scouts,
it's
American
been
Legion.
kind of ignored what
So I mean,
we charge.
it's somewhat over the board, all over the board of what we're talking about, but generally, just from the sense that I got is that it was generally whatever the fee was, but it was for the year instead of for the actual days in and of itself. So it was greatly reduced, but it just depends on whether or not that would need to be revisited or, there's a few discussion points that could be clarified for that.
I don't know, I got a real problem charging the Girl Scouts and the American Legion more than what they're paying now. I don't know. Eric,
I'm sorry to interject and distract from this conversation. I have to get my kids off the bus in about 9 minutes.
okay,
I know we're right on the verge of getting to the staff report, so I wanted to at least give you guys some time if you guys had questions for me to get those questions answered. I don't know if we wanna go off of this topic and save a little time for the staff report. I can get back on Zoom, but I don't wanna hold anybody here. The kids get off the bus around 4.
okay.
Otherwise, I can also go through some of the items as well, like,
Okay.
if you can jump on Zoom, great, you
Sure.
can see, but.
Yeah, I just wanted to make you aware. I didn't wanna skedaddle and like, oh, where's he going?
Yeah.
I got about a couple more minutes here if we want to
Okay.
continue this
Okay,
conversation.
thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So at minimum, we should have the nonprofit rate per day be the annual rate for them, so we're not coming up with a new rate altogether. And if we wanna try and figure out, okay, well, if you have 12 scheduled meetings, we'll just bill you for whatever whatever our daily rate is. Something along those lines, but
We gotta have something standard and
Yeah, but-
easy and fair.
So if it's not nothing, then you're suggesting if it's would normally be, I don't know, $50 for the day or something?
It just, one of the things to break out, right, whether or not there is enough that it can meet what you're actually making, and that might not be the point, right? But if that's something to be evaluated. And then the other thing is whether or not it should be applied equally between all of the facilities or just some of the facilities, right? Is it just a consideration, right?
I think Jerry's point, it costs less for somebody to be in this building.
It does, and I think it's okay to treat this building like if we
And,
base it on costs, I think it's okay for the fees to be different.
Frankly, it could also be something if you make this and it's more affordable to maintain this building and to use it, it could potentially be that some of the other groups that use the other facilities could be directed
here.
for this room.
Well, plus in this building, they have no access to a kitchen. So it's just,
Okay.
it's a room,
So it'd be, depending
you know,
on
there's
what
the
they're-
kitchen at the village hall.
So if at Village Hall, and we know for sure it's costing us, and I understand certain times of years it's more, it's roughly $300 a month for one utility. Let's say it's $500 a month for 2 utilities and labor. I think that's high, but let's say that's what it is. A month. Right, so would you, that goes,
Well, we're not even talking about sewer and water, so it's probably more than that.
okay, so then what do you
But
gonna,
some of that you have to pay no matter what.
Correct, right, even if it's just the,
so are we
base.
charging $500 flat fee for the a year? Girl Scouts, American Legion, who are now paying,
$50. How about this? Since I
So-
think we're struggling,
it's just, I have a
trying,
hard time with a
trying
lot
to
of Girl
be
Scouts.
fair. I think nonprofits are very different than renting it out for a birthday party or a gathering, okay? whatever that difference in criteria is. I suggest that we come up with a list that, and if you want the nonprofits to pay a nominal amount, no matter how many times they meet, you have to come and ask us, and we will approve you, and you will be on the list.
What's
And
our,
the list can start with, you know,
Current
who's
users.
already using.
Right.
The only challenge there is how you criteria versus we approve you versus we don't.
Yeah, we
approve.
discriminated.
yeah, I don't
Correct.
think that's a good idea.
Sister Bay. Northern Door County.
Well, the American Legion's all over the place, but Girl Scouts could also be not from Sister Bay. I'm okay with the nonprofit part of it, so that we aren't making decisions so we aren't just, I'm not suggesting we're discriminating in the sense that it sounds like, I'm not suggesting that, but.
But I still do think that there has to be a nominal fee, because it does take staff time to enter, especially if it is. Even if it's done in
I'm
one
okay with
lump.
I used to say it was $20, and that was years ago, and now it's more like $50 for staff to touch anything.
Right,
So to not lose money, we have to charge $50.
correct.
Per meeting, correct?
Just for every time staff touches it. Now, if you touch it once for the year, there's also less work if you're touching it once for the year versus
Right,
having to deal with every
Oh, that's
reservation.
right.
So do we go back to make it easy, like Nate was saying, and existing fees for profits or not nonprofits?
Mhm.
And then for nonprofits, the daily fee could be the monthly or whatever.
Do you think it should, yeah, it was discussed, so right now it's being implemented generally as annual, so it's for the year, it's $25 for profit, which, you know, if you round down for what the use is, it's more like 0. So it depends on whether or not they would need to be evaluated for a fee on a monthly basis for covering more of the costs, or whether or not it would be, you know, essentially the annual
You
amount.
do it annually, then we only touch it once,
Well, I mean,
Nate's
they-
point, one touch, one cost.
Yeah.
so $50
Well-
a year.
It could be, I mean, like if you 50 times 12, it could be at the beginning of the year, and then you would still have access, but
True.
it just depends how much you want to give them, you know.
So let's say Door County nonprofits, we want to do that, so we have something that's defendable, that's not gonna get us sued and lost.
Right.
For the village.
And the Girl Scouts are $50 every time they come, and they come every month
It's $50 for the year.
for the year. Okay, all right, gotcha.
Yeah, back to Nate's point, the daily fee is the yearly fee for a nonprofit.
Yeah,
That's $50 per year for everybody in this example of like the large meeting. room.
Gotcha.
And whatever it is for the actual person, that's what it is for the year.
so Girl Scouts would be 200, American Legion.
It-
200, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the
The
room,
space.
on the space that they're utilizing.
I'm talking Village Hall. 'cause
I
they'll
think
go
that's a
Village.
pretty
Yes.
simple way in.
If they utilize Village Hall, it'd be $200 per year based on what was discussed.
Okay. Are you all right with that, Denise?
I think I'm getting there.
Okay. So
I
we're
wanna
talking,
see it.
But it encourages nonprofits who use the facility regularly, because if you're a nonprofit and use it once a year, well, you just pay the same fee that everybody else does.
we don't have. doesn't sound
But
like-
they have to do the reservation at one time. If you keep, and every time you submit a reservation request.
Yes, it's a one-time, yeah.
That,
So
I mean, so it'd have to be essentially they're setting a recurring schedule
for the
Right.
year.
for the year at one point in time, and then if we need to touch it and add more, that we charge again.
Is that something that you can type up?
Yeah, I mean, yes, yes, it could be, yes.
Can someone just summarize what we're agreeing to here, Ben, or
Yep.
someone?
There was some discussion regarding nonprofit status and the use of village facilities. It was discussed that to standardize the procedure amongst nonprofits, that it was the potential recommendation of the Parks Committee to make the fee for nonprofits. The daily fee equates to the annual fee. So for example, if they spend $200 a day for the village hall, a nonprofit would pay $200 a year for the village hall. And that there would be requirements for nonprofit status within Door County. And that if they would need to make a schedule and submit a schedule of when they would be using it for a year. And if we needed to revise the schedule or do any essentially administration work, that there would be an opportunity to revisit the fee.
I mean, if they change the times, or maybe it's a Tuesday or something.
I mean, there can be some administrative discretion, but essentially if they add in like a new, like they went from Monday to Thursday, like, you know, okay, hey, as long as it keeps on going like that.
Yeah.
But if they added another day, for example,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That could be something to revisit to capture anything. But it can be.
And then the and on that is that anyone other than a Door County nonprofit pays the public fees.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, the regular fee.
So there was
Yep.
not a significant amount of discussion for the resident, and it sounds like, you know, the no
Yep.
action alternative.
Oh, I heard the whole thing. I was listening. I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure I got the summary right. And you did a
Sorry,
good
I didn't know
job
if
of
the
it. Thank
owl
you,
was
Ben.
it or not.
No, thanks.
I'm glad you were tagging along.
I just wanted to make sure I got the motion correct. And was that a motion? Can we make the motion
It's
consistent with?
staff direction to draft and bring it back for approval.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
The motion would be for,
Yeah.
you know, the consensus previously discussed. for staff.
Are you starting to get reservations or requests now, Sarah?
Yes.
Are you waiting on some, or where are you now?
Waiting on,
But who's waiting right now for?
I don't know if it, I mean, like, there's some groups, you know, I don't want to single anybody out because some of them are going elsewhere.
Can everybody wait a month? I mean, that's what's gonna happen?
I think the ones that we haven't, yeah, I'm sure that they can.
Okay.
I'm sure that they can.
Okay, I don't want to inconvenience anybody, and I'd like to keep them in the village. It's great to have them.
The ones that we
In the
have
village?
rented, currently, or that we've accepted, reservations for, in the nonprofit status, that we've just, whatever the status, we kept with status quo, so whatever, was done previously. So for example, the tax help,
That's here, right? Yeah.
right, in this room, they were charged, $20 a day at, however many meetings that they had, or
Yeah,
so they were charged
Makes sense,
differently, but that's
Yeah,
what they were billed
Yeah.
last year, so that's it, I mean.
we just had to keep things moving along and that now we
That makes sense.
are intending to clarify the policy, right?
Okay,
Correct.
okay. Right, so we'll finalize it next week, next month, sorry.
Yes, do you want to make a motion just to, I mean, it depends. If you, I know what the direction is, but if you wanted to make a motion for,
No, let's not.
okay, we're good. It is very, yes, I'm good.
We directed staff.
We directed staff. I'm great with that.
Okay, next up, last item, not last item, 5I, Village Hall rental agreement with Shane Kruger. Is Shane zooming in?
So
by
I
chance?
did call him to say that this would be on the agenda, but I didn't hear back.
Okay,
But honestly, it's less about the actual agreement itself and more about just some of the items that are listed within the application that need clarification on, the standing on what is and is not allowable. So essentially, I was really running short of time on Friday to get this out, so I just included, what was there for the application with the redacted information for, the contact information, so that's why it's there for that. But essentially, Shane is interested in having some day in March where he would rent out the village hall and it would be open to, it would be an event that'd be open to the public where there'd be a maker's mark and there'd be a local music event. And there are a few things within the, current agreement that would conflict with what is and is not allowable at the village facility. So one of them is just generally for the for-profit events, is that generally when talking about it, it's more about an organization doing a for-profit event. And just wanted to get some clarification on if a person was interested in doing a, for-profit event using the village facilities. One of the things that I could anticipate was whether or not the liability insurance we could potentially cover them as part of the village's existing insurance. And I
Yeah.
did contact McClone or staff contacted McClone and was able to clarify that we cannot extend it as part of it to,
Don't we require they have their own insurance?
So
or
that was gonna be, it's different for an organization
individual
versus
versus
an individual. So I mean, it still can be that we impose having the insurance that they contact and they do it, but they would be doing it as an individual.
Yeah,
as
we need
well.
to sign.
So
we
that
need
would
to-
need to be clarified in order to move this forward.
Okay.
So that's one thing, and then I also just
Would
wanted
we
to,
clarify that now? Or do you need,
so just the second item here
Okay.
is just that for the music and everything, is that, according to the agreement, that amplified sound is not permitted outside of the building. So I believe it was the expectation that they would have this, essentially be, something that would be a little bit more exterior. The sound could travel to the exterior as part of this as well, and then it could potentially be a little bit more noisy within that area. And
Yeah,
then there
but
was-
he's having it in March. It's gonna be inside.
Yeah, but I mean,
So-
the noise would travel out, but I just didn't know in terms of the nuisance requirements that would be applied for it in terms of the decibel, like if there's any concerns at all in terms of potentially having this event be approved and then having, loud music, playing.
Well,
and
Northern
getting
Door Pride
complaints.
has 2 events a year there, and they have a DJ that's very loud, and I don't think we've ever had decibel issues.
Yes, okay, I just wanted to be clear.
have an issue with an individual for profit.
Well, I don't know about that. First of all, he's gotta have the insurance, number one. I mean, that's critical.
So you're saying you wouldn't have an issue if it was a business that was nonprofit, for profit? You're saying any for-profit activity,
Yes.
any for-profit activity?
Well, I have a couple of just questions before I don't know that we would necessarily approve this today. A couple of questions. One, we'd need to know the name of the band. Who's playing? What kind of band is it? Okay? What,
Is that like the more of a standard norm, or is that like somewhere that's listed?
it is listed for, music at the pavilion.
yeah, we recently updated the pavilion
Correct.
policy.
And, and it also includes like no pyrotechnics, no, there's been stuff. So we need to see the name of the band and access to, we can look at YouTube, we can do it. And so
So I think what you're proposing is extending the pavilion policies to the village hall.
Yeah. So, which includes no foul language, it's pretty fairly boilerplate, but we've having many different experiences at the pavilion have tried to come up with.
That is just what I don't know anything. I know that you said that you maybe knew him, but I just don't.
I know of him from the brewery in Bailey's.
I could just see that.
A long time ago. I don't know him at all. Just want to make everybody clear. I do not know him.
Okay,
But I know
sorry.
of him.
No,
He fancies himself a designer and a marketing guy and does some clever things. So number one, who's the band? What are the hours of the band? That kind of stuff. And then
We're
make
extending just to keep it
yeah, for the,
official, would be looking at extending the policy for the pavilion to the village hall.
yeah, so he can't play after 10 or
So-
9.
so
9? 10, okay.
So yes, it's 7 to 10, what it is, and then
Okay.
including the noise ordinance, it would be from 7 to 10 as well, which aligns for it, and I mean, there is the decibel meter that is listed on there, but it's just generally,
Yeah.
unless you got a decimal reader, is this too loud or not? But
We
just
have
want,
decibel readers, we can always go, but it's in that facility, chances are whatever, this is gonna be too loud, but when you're standing outside, it'll be.
Yeah.
okay.
so that was one thing, so we're good with the music. I mean, if you want to make, or provide clarification or make a motion regarding the actual applying the pavilion policy. But the other thing is just for the for-profit events is that it doesn't clarify if it's an organization or a group, but regardless, it would still, based on this agreement language, that they would still have an obligation to have the certificate of liability insurance to obtain that as part of this. To follow through on the agreement.
Okay. And I mean, noted, I'm assuming he saw that, but there was no alcohol, wine, beer, nothing in there.
That would be, clarified as part of it as well, but I mean, it didn't sound like that was the main driver of it. It sounds like
No, they wanted alcohol there.
they did.
They do.
I didn't see that as part of the application.
What do
Okay.
they want?
It's unfortunate that he's not here today because he really was, he and another fellow that contacted me. They were really very excited to have some sort of event happen in the middle of the winter. Just for their friends and locals and local vendors.
Okay, then let's
or
do this.
Handicrafts.
Okay, let's do this. We are gonna, move this out and we can take it up at the next meeting if you'd like to join us.
Yeah, I can give him a
Yeah,
call.
but he wants alcohol and it's not allowed.
I know that, that's why we can have a conversation with him, but you told him it wasn't allowed, right? Or maybe
So-
you didn't.
It says here
It
that,
doesn't say, it doesn't read.
well, it
it.
says
does.
alcohol, except in the case where an eligible organization has obtained the.
A nonprofit.
proper-
Yeah.
Well, any I mean, I'd have to see what the other stuff, but this references an organization.
Yeah.
And
Because Northern Door Pride has beer and wine there, however, it's donated and no, they don't charge for it.
they have the proper license.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean,
If they do come, next month, it sounds like they want to have the event end of February or beginning of March, so it was a tight squeeze to have them on this meeting as it was, so it's unfortunate it's not gonna happen then.
Well,
probably.
Here's
Maybe
the-
next year.
Well, I would, when you reach back out to them, I would simply say that the community needs more information than was provided.
Well, though, can't we point it to,
go through the proper
Yeah,
procedures for that.
that Ben's applying the policy?
Right.
There were
Yep.
some policy questions and we've clarified the
Insurance.
policy question.
Yep, would-
Alcohol, which isn't type of event, I realize that there's not a place in here that says that you can,
well, it's somewhat of a different policy in and of itself, but as long as we're clarified on the two other items, if he can. Potentially, whatever is allowable for the alcohol, as long as he goes through the hoops with the village clerk. And that they have a licensed operator on, as long as they meet the requirements, they can do it, but.
And it sounds like maybe a future agenda item is clarifying this policy the way because we went through and updated the pavilion policy after we had some issues that needed to be clarified. And it
Yeah.
sounds like the village hall needs the same.
Yeah, I mean, if it's still just the same conditions, if it's just getting the same workup or slightly different, but yeah, there is some things where. It could be clarified in some places, but as long as based on the discussion, we're good with. The music having the same policies as the pavilion, and that it's still their responsibility to have the certificate of liability insurance. And then just as a third item that wasn't discussed, but it's up to them to figure out whether or not they can jump through what they need to jump through to have alcohol present.
right?
In alignment with the policies.
But the policy for the pavilion doesn't specifically say that to book the pavilion, we need to know the name of the band that's playing, but it's inferred. It doesn't because typically the people that book the pavilion stage are the band. Do you know what I mean? So
Well, I think it asks for samples of their work.
it asks for, basically links to YouTube or something,
Okay.
so, okay. So Sarah, this puts you kind of in the middle. Are you okay with responding to him or?
I think Sarah talks to Ben and Ben applies the
Yeah.
policy.
Okay,
I don't think Sarah needs to
Okay.
be in the middle of anything.
Yep, we'll try to see if we can make it work, but as long as all the conditions can be met, we can see what we can do and I can. Coordinate with him to get that.
it sounds like there may be more than one musician too, and host musician, so I'm not sure it's gonna be anyway, so.
We'll let them work through the policy with that.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay,
say,
great,
yep.
great, thank you. All right. Fine.
That should honestly be the last.
So we're gonna go to second, staff report and board updates. So up next is so this is, do you want to walk us, I had a couple questions. So I'm at this Parks and Street Directors report.
Yep.
I'm back, guys.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I couldn't see her now.
Okay, all right, do you want to walk us well, first of all, does anybody have any questions about this? And is there anything specific that you want to highlight here?
Well, do you want us to talk or Eric to talk first?
I think the committee can talk first.
I kind of like the concrete benches. I have some on my property where you slide the boards into the concrete. You know, there's not an option. I don't know if that's just because mine are really, really old or they don't.
Concrete had that option. It looks like it has the slide the boards in.
And if that's something that we would be interested,
Is that concrete or metal?
I do like the silver one, just not in silver.
All over.
If it was black. You know, we talked about, you know, we got the black garbage cans, we repainted the lamp post black, something like that. I don't know if I love just the single post of it, but you know, I'm interested in
Are you talking about the concrete or the metal?
the metal.
Okay,
Yeah, I like black.
so
but I
metal and
agree.
black.
In having a longer conversation on different options. And I thought it was really interesting that the concrete pretty much was the same kind of base as the ugly metal frames that we're currently using. I was surprised by that. So that's what I have to say on the benches. Unless you want
Question-
me to, are we
question for
taking it
Eric on-
subject by subject?
Question for Eric on the benches. You said $27 an hour. I assume that, is that actually the bill out rate for staff?
That's their currently hourly rate. There's the charge out rate is significantly more.
If we're looking at expense for the village, I think that's the one we need to use.
I would say just, I don't know if that includes anything in terms of benefit calculation.
Yeah, that's what the charge out rate. was.
Yes, okay, gotcha.
But so the charge out rate is more than 27.
Yes.
Correct. It's almost double.
Yeah,
But it more accurately reflects the
yes,
cost.
exactly.
Which says that our benches and picnic tables are woefully underpriced.
Mhm.
Eric, do you have a preference on the benches?
No, not a preference. I was just trying to gather information for the committee. And I was looking for bench, frames that could fit our current wood that we utilize. So these were the options that I came up with. The ones that Denise were referring to that fit into the actual bench required a thinner board, which I could manufacture or ask the lumberyard that we utilize to produce something like that for us if we wanted to go that route.
So we'd have to supply the wood for that one? If they just do the frame?
They for the benches, we would do our own wood. Now they do make prefabricated benches and everything like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and it looks like iPay is not an option because of the weight and the cost.
Yeah.
All right, so we need to make a decision on this. Do we need to order some benches, Eric?
Oh, I think this is just our first conversation.
Yes,
on
this is
where
just-
This is just initial.
Okay, so we're looking to replace some and then maybe order new ones.
Yeah, this was all just food for thought, just some ideas. Maybe if you wanted to change some stuff down the road.
So if there was anything in terms of referencing for a next agenda item and you feel though that is enough information to make a decision or summarized as part of a staff report, it can be referenced as part of or refer to the next agenda.
And if we charge $1,000 for a bench, to your point, should be more than that.
Well, I think what we were talking about is revisiting the bench policy, and part of the revisit that Denise has suggested is maybe we re-examine the design as well.
Mhm.
basically new standard, new cost, et cetera, so we've got it all wrapped into one.
So is that a goal to get done in the next 5, 6 months, so by middle of this year?
I would think so, given we have outstanding
We've
requests.
got
or
requests
benches.
waiting still.
We do have two that are waiting for approval, and I did find a waiting list, a bench waiting list that show after we added one in November, 13 of those. I don't know how many have paid, other than the one from November. And I don't know if I have not tried contacting them.
Okay, do you have a date for when they were requested?
Some as far back as 2013, 2015,
Okay.
up until this past one in November. The last one that was added to the list was 2021. So nothing has been approved since 2021.
Oh, wow.
So is that?
According to this list.
Waiting
I-
list or?
It could have been for locations, so somebody was put on,
a-
you know,
a
they
wait list
wanted
for a
it in
spot?
a very specific spot. They
Mm.
were put on a waiting list.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That would be my recollection from.
That makes sense.
I'm gonna just go back to item 2. Are you fully moved in now into the parks facility, Eric?
We are currently, yes, we are operating out of that building, meeting in the morning, and all operations are being conducted out of that facility right now. We still have a little bit ways to go of cleaning out of the old facility, but as far as the day to day, yes, we are currently operating out of that facility.
And what about what's being what's being stored outside at Lagerquist? When do you think we can get that inside someplace?
That'll be a focus as soon as everything is done within the old facility.
Okay,
So do you know just a general time frame of when that would occur? So when are you gonna?
I would be hoping that I could maybe start that process late winter, early spring.
so this is the facility, this is Mill Road, right?
So
Correct.
You would get everything out of the Mill Road, probably like in March timeframe, and then it could be April when everything would go.
Excuse me, I misunderstood. I thought we were talking about Lagerquest Farm having that cleaned up. Was that the
You
question?
said that Mill Road was first, and then afterwards you'd get.
Correct. Yeah, Mill Road. I'm hoping to be done with Mill Road being out of that facility sometime this February, being completely done.
Because there's still some holiday, that needs to be, not still, but there's some holiday that needs to be taken down, so if any of it needs, rather than take it out to Lagerquist, if it can go to Mill Road, that would be good.
Yeah, right now my main focus is to get out of Mill Road. So that's been our driving focus as of right now. Then our focus will turn to, once we are completely out of that facility, we're going to turn to Christmas decoration and Lagerquist Farm, and then depending on the time frame and the season, spring cleanup or still some winter operation as far as restorating picnic tables or nautical cans and stuff like that.
All right. Okay, I'm on number 11, which is the update on the historical signage. So it looks like Griffin is ready to install the signage in the spring.
Yes, I reached out to Griffin Olson, owner operator of Lakeview Concrete, just to see where his availability would be. And what he told me was, as soon as the village is ready, come spring, he'll be ready for us.
Can I go, I have a question about 9.
Sure.
Oh, no, not 9, 10.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over that, and yeah, I'm sorry, that's my mistake. Sure.
Eric, do you know, even though that you haven't received the estimates, what is the thickness of the T11 that we will be getting quoted on? for cold storage?
The thickness,
Is it 5/8? Or thinner?
I do not have that information as of right now, Denise.
If he's not putting in 5/8, I would suggest him to revamp, his estimate to include that.
Oh, will do.
Okay, sorry about that. Anybody else have questions on cold storage? Okay, so back to now the gazebo benches and the historical signage. So now we'll start with historical signage. So this is pouring the concrete.
Did you want Eric to provide any overview at all?
Yeah, this is provided for in your budget and it's within budget, right?
So this item was not budgeted. It was my understanding in our previous administrator, this was gonna come out of the 2024 reimbursement fund.
Yeah, this is a community reimbursement fund. You're right. This is,
So it is
this is SIF
somewhat,
budgeted.
yeah, it's just that it's been compiled as part of
Yeah.
a previous budget.
Okay, sorry, yep. So my question would be, we have the slab and then, what, did we decide what the signage is gonna sit on top of? So we have the signage, right? And there were questions about what was gonna support it.
Probably settled on the black metal.
So black metal, right? That's what I thought.
Correct.
Sheathing them with, stone, but it sounded like that was.
I thought we decided that we were gonna do the thinner, smaller stone pillars just on the ends.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
That's what-
We talked
that's what
about
I
that, but
remember.
we'd had almost an impossibility of finding somebody to do that, which is why Eric kept reaching out to folks, and it sounds like Griffin's person lost interest.
Yeah, but Colosimo and Franke, and by the way, under number 11, Franke is spelled Franke. Local family, local name, no I. Franke? Yes, I better write that down. See, if I'm related to.
Have you
them.
heard from Frankie about it?
Frankie just reached back out to me. He was on vacation. I just got a text message from him today. I did not have time to respond to him and get all the information needed. I did reach out to Peterson Masonry. He's out of Sturgeon Bay. I gathered all the information for the gazebo benches and counters for that project, and I've sent that over to him. Hopefully, waiting for some numbers back from him in the week. As Casimo, he doesn't do that type of masonry work, but he does work with prefabricated structures similar to what the committee was looking for. So I'm hoping to have maybe an option for that for you guys to go consider as well. As far as the signage, the historical signage, it was my understanding that the committee had decided just to go with the steel mounting. So that's what was talked to and reiterated to the historical sign provider, and that's what's being fabricated right now in the process.
That went to Julie Hine. Okay,
Yeah, because she wasn't ever gonna do any masonry, she was just providing the sign and its support,
right.
and it was up to us if we wanted to do the cladding that we talked about.
Is Frankie gonna quote for the gazebo and for these signage?
There is no quote that I was told to get for the signage. I thought that the stones that were going to be considered was now determined not to happen any longer, and then just to proceed to get the counter and the benches.
Okay, I mean, does that work for you? I'm fine with
I thought we,
the black
I mean-
metal. That's why I brought it up. I just wanted to
yeah, I
make sure
thought
that we
it
were.
was still planned, but like, when did we,
At one point, we talked about stone. And then when we looked at it, I think we thought it was it was like a little overwhelming or something, I'm not quite. maybe
Well,
that's
there
the
was
wrong
like
word.
the stone,
Yeah,
and then we talked about stone.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. We
Cause I
have,
really, just the black without without them being. Let me start over. Thank you. With it sitting on top of something and having some kind of stone base, even though much smaller than what we originally thought we wanted, I think just lends itself to the waterfront more than the black stand that just gets attached to the concrete slab and it's just kind of generic.
It would match the rest of, which is why I thought we approved it in the first place. It kind of matches the pillars and the gazebo and the other stonework in there.
wait, so if we want, even if we wanted to do stone, what would we do? It would be like a veneer, like you clad it with that? What would you do? I don't
But
know.
we just talked about them making them,
You know, just a small box around the pillars,
yeah.
just like the light posts or the solar.
Well, you're still in the process of getting quotes, right? Between.
Correct.
Classimo-
I'm still in the process for the gazebo. If we wanted to build a box around the anchoring supports for the sign, I could talk to them about doing that as well.
Quotes from both Frankie and Classimo on that, okay? I mean, I
Colosimo
guess-
probably would not provide. He doesn't do that kind of masonry work, but I will ask Peterson.
Okay, and don't forget Frankie, okay?
Yep, and
that's-
I'll
and
get that
that's
from you.
Giving direction and so is everybody okay with getting a quote?
Yeah, I think we were still waiting on.
Well, this is part of the staff report.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
I
just-
meant just to now include stone with the signage.
Oh.
That was not, he hadn't gotten a quote. I'm sorry, Eric hadn't gotten a quote. Okay, so now we're gonna go to tree planting in Waterfront Park and at the sports complex.
So with the waterfront park. Thought the direction was to keep it uniform along the road and that. The pancake tent, a once a year event. Could find a place to fit, not to move the trees for the tent, but this seems to indicate that it.
We didn't
changed to
really move
the
them, they're
trees.
still, it's still along the road. And I probably need, it'd be better to have a sketch so you could see what we talked about. Because we did not move them necessarily, we
But it
didn't,
says
Well,
move.
it says that you met with Eric and you changed the placement.
well, I
Which
met
I
with
don't
Eric
think we
because,
gave permission.
yeah, we
to do.
did, the committee asked me to meet with Eric, and I
Yes,
went down
they
there and
did.
met him.
We
Absolutely,
did
that's
ask
what
him to
happened.
meet with him. Yeah.
So what he explained to me was not just the pancake breakfast, but Eric, there was also, I don't know if it was a root system or if it had something to do with infrastructure in terms of where we could plant. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there were other obstacles.
Well, that initial concern came originally from the pancake tent being set up for Marina Fest and the area where I could plant the trees because I have infrastructure being the sprinkler system that's pushed off of the sidewalk about 5 feet, which then again, I need to create some space for that infrastructure, and then that would push the trees more closer to the marina, which then would intervene with that pancake tent. So when I came out and I met with Louise in late early winter, we had discussed if we needed to shift the trees south towards the village hall, then to not run into that situation by squeezing that pancake tent.
So is it the infrastructure or the pancake tent?
Both.
It's both.
I think I'd like to kind of see a sketch then of the options and then we meet as a committee and decide where the trees
Right.
can best go.
Okay.
The other thing too is, I mean,
Future agenda, yeah.
that could be a future agenda and we can talk to Ivan to see, let me see.
Well, so we need a sketch that shows
Yeah,
where the infrastructure
he would be the
is
one
and
that
then
would do it.
size of the pancake tent and then we can,
Well, we gotta
Go
get
on
Digger's
that.
hotline in there first to see where it can go.
but we could get that before the next agenda.
Yeah, to see where it can go. That's one option, because remember, it's like, I don't even know, it was warm compared to the last couple of weeks, but it was cold. course, it's like freaking 30 mile an hour winds. And we're walking around trying to figure it out, so we can, Eric, if we get Digger's hotline in there, so we know where we can't. And then I can ask Ivan to meet us there to see from a will these grow here point of view. And then the other thing that I wrote in my notes were, how are we gonna water these every day? So we need to,
Well, if there's sprinkler
Consider that as
infrastructure,
well.
it should be doable.
Yeah, the waterfront park is going to be golden for watering. All of waterfront has irrigation.
okay,
So that's not the concern. It's the concern getting too close to the irrigation with the trees.
so I've been there to talk about what, how to make these trees, how to tend to the trees would be great. And also with the sports complex. There's no irrigation.
There's no irrigation. The sports complex would have a special treatment to water the trees every day.
Okay. Okay, Denise, point of view on the trees, autumn blaze, balsam fir.
That was my next question.
And I knew it. So,
I mean, I remember when we did, I thought it was the walk around, it could have been when we were back here, that we did talk a lot about autumn blaze and having a variety of trees or whatever. Did we give Bridenhagen, did this committee give Bridenhagen a list, or is this something that Ivan came up with himself?
Ivan came up with the suggested trees.
Okay, then I want to be able to see the pictures of the trees. And I guess we could all do that individually, but I'll ask,
we can have.
If we're gonna give direction, we need to have it come to the committee so we can make this direction as a committee, as an agenda item. There's a
Right,
lot of discussion going on in your staff reports that's really getting us
that.
quite a ways out there.
That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah,
But not really, so what we want are you can send photographs of suggested trees. And a layout of where they're gonna be.
Layout where they're gonna be and
Yeah.
what current trees are adjacent to where we wanna plant.
Okay,
Great for Megan's GIS project.
Yes, it is.
because it's in a couple different areas, I mean, one's by the music pavilion in Henriksen Park, that's different than the boat
So the
ramp.
only trees that Ivan changed were the pin oaks that the committee suggested going in Waterfront Park. He changed all the autumn blazes were what the committee requested and the balsam fern. He had concern with the pin oaks because they weren't going to grow as fast near the autumn blaze, and they were going to look offsetting. So he had suggested. I'm sorry, I don't have the report in
That
front of me
says
right now.
Oasis Birch Plum.
Yes,
But
something
maybe the
capable
next-
of growing at the same rate, and that was also a park-friendly tree.
Well, see, we should have,
And that's.
we should have had Ivan's
items.
notes on
Yeah.
if he changed something and why.
Yeah. So,
Or, I'm sorry, anybody that we're getting it in from.
yeah,
So at this point in time, I don't feel comfortable accepting a bid till our next meeting.
yeah, so if we can get basically a layout. So this is what this is a current inventory. And then this is what
Here's where we can and can't put trees.
this is what he's suggesting we put in based on wherever the infrastructure is and based on Digger's hotline. And what those trees are, and then just a small photograph of what the tree looks like.
Yep, perfect. I got those components that were listed, and I'm assuming for the
And the
current.
dimensions of the pancake house.
Oh, I know that,
Well, he can have it in the.
yeah.
We can include it as part of the staff report.
Is that 40, is that
Work with Eric.
1040 by 40, Ellie? The fire department's and,
It's not
where-
where.
no, it's 40 by 20 maybe?
Yeah, let me look it up.
Anyway, whatever, we'll
Well,
find it.
it'll be in the report.
We can-
Don't need it right
If
now.
we can look it up, we can look it up as the following agenda item.
Okay. Okay, anything else on trees? And I think that was the area we were talking about. I don't believe we talked about anything in Marina Park. So, okay, yes.
says 30 by 75 is is the frame of the
Okay,
tent.
so it's way off, but that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's right now the way it stands. What's that? It's a jet. Why do we have jets? Nate,
Somebody's rolling it hard, I think.
what's the total? Subtotal's 2,900. Did he give us a grand total?
On the benches?
No, I'm looking at trees.
So I mean, I think right now is that it needs to be finalized anyway with additional information, but
We couldn't approve it anyway because it's part of the staff report.
It'd just be nice to know what, because I don't see a subtotal. I don't see a grand total here.
I think I think there's options, but it can be clarified. as part of
Well, and
it.
that would come back to us anyway
Yeah.
after it's.
Because it looks like a grand if he wants a deposit of 1/3 and the deposit's 2685. That's why I'm asking.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't, I can make sure that this is, still the same estimate, that there's not like a 60-day, or a 30-day window or something like that, that they're valid from,
No,
to work
check,
with Eric
all right.
on it.
Okay.
And, we'll get all the other items for the staff report for it.
Okay. Okay. What else? Anyone else?
Yep, 13.
13. Update on accident report.
Okay,
What was
so
the accident? Maybe I missed it or was not.
multiple, not collision accidents.
Oh, okay.
No. So at our board meeting, we had a conversation about, a window that blew out. And that cost more than $400 to replace, that it didn't meet the deductible. Correct? We
Yes.
had that conversation. So, is this headache rack now in the same vehicle where the window was broken?
Yes.
And how much did we spend on the headache rack?
I think. I don't have that in this report right here, Denise. I could get that total for you at a later date.
See if I have something offhand.
Okay. So we cannot use the John Deere now because the broom is on back order?
We can't use that specific implement, correct? The John Deere is fine, and it can utilize its two-stage blower implement.
Okay. And, Ben, were the incident/accident report forms all filled out?
So there was no specific incident. So there's two different things. There's one that's incident for a person, right? That would be covered under workers' compensation, and that's what's there. There's a standardized form. There is not a standardized form for any damage to village vehicles, but based on this, I did ask Eric to draft some information based on some criteria that's typically provided. And from an operational perspective, moving forward, I would like to establish just some internal procedures about reporting based on meeting criteria of financial value, whether or not something becomes out of service. I listed a few things within an email that.
I think we need a form.
Yep, I completely, I mean,
That's not the policy choice. Where does that policy get approved? Does that go to the village board or does that just go to? Is it just an administrative policy? We don't really need to formalize
it
it.
depends what you do with it. If it just was something to receive and we need to use it for administration purposes, just because I personally feel it should be documented for insurance purposes and just generally for any asset management purposes, which are more operational, but in terms of any policy decision on what you do with it further, I mean, it would have to be defined about what it would go, where it would go and if it would be beyond, but right now it's more of a operational, related item for any of these accident reports.
That can be pretty problematic for us to deal with at the board then, because it ends up being a public document, I would presume, so I don't.
Yeah,
How much of this, how far should the village or board or the parks committee actually wade into?
typically in other communities that I've been involved with is that there is a internal safety committee which meets, especially insurance requirements, that it's more so handled internally to talk about any safety procedures and to talk about any accident reports and then identify any corrective action to move forward with. But in terms of any liability, I mean, it is also a lot of information pertaining to both employees and our assets that would be out there if it was subject to it. But right now, I mean, it would have to be reviewed in terms of a public records request. And I don't want to babble on because I'm thinking about it, but I think what I said at the beginning of the statement was it is typically a operational component. And yes, I do agree that it should be something that is standardized in terms of a form that is utilized, but.
And I think I understand your concern, Nate, but I think if they need to go somewhere. Whether it's to personnel or to, it doesn't have to come to the board, but I think there should be a committee that is aware if there are problems and issues.
I sort of,
And if if it's not personnel, then you can tell me, something else. But I just think, FYI information, it should be going to some committee.
yeah, I agree. And in some cases, it would be personnel. I don't mind the idea of a safety committee in terms of, asset management. We have a lot of committees.
Well,
And let me just have one quick question. Are safety committees typically, is the agenda driven by, is it once a quarter and driven by, things that have occurred with village assets? And if there isn't really much to talk about, then there isn't I don't know, because safety can be very broad. Very broad. It can be wastewater treatment. It can be very, very broad. And boy, we have a lot. So, or is safety an element of, again, which makes agendas longer, but an element of other within committees? I don't know.
so what I'll say right now from a policy perspective is that ideally, if you were to make a change, it would be included as part of a bylaw change to change what the scope of any committee would do. But in terms of who it reports to, it does report to the village administrator, and there is additional procedures that could be clarified about where it goes and the seriousness of it and handled on a personnel or department basis. In terms of internal safety committee, so it wouldn't be a formal, actual public committee that would be subject to the various requirements. It just would be an internal working committee is typically what happens, and that it meets quarterly unless an accident happens, in which case it should be followed up within 30 days, and that the committee should have an opportunity to review and to make corrective action for it. But it's more of a administration on the job type of thing. And typically that includes occupational safety. It could include anything in terms of ergonomics, and that it also would include the use of and training on equipment.
So so next steps would be, let's take a look at that. Well, who takes a look at the accident, not the accident form, but the incident form or whatever, the document that we didn't have? Who takes a look and approves that, or does that stay within administration?
So right now there is nothing, and then the
Right.
next step up was getting documentation.
Okay,
And then moving up, it just depends whether or not it is a policy related issue or remains within the admin sphere. And if that's the case, I would probably, if it was in the admin sphere, I'd probably take a look at it and see what the standard operating procedures would be and continue safety monitoring and where things go. Otherwise, if it's a policy item, it would need to have some input about what that would look like.
Which would be the board.
So I think that we've gone how long without this policy at all?
Right.
I think let's start by having a policy and then see how that works out.
Mhm. I think that it's up to, Ben, it's up to you on how you want to manage safety with, I mean, I don't think I've ever uttered the word safety. When I was at the SBAA, talked about it a lot. And that was just, safety for our, our gas, safety for everything, and insurance is more than anything. But also, how do we prevent this from happening?
So the
Yeah.
reason that I'm perhaps a little bit more familiar with it is because I ran the safety committee for the Village of Bellevue during my time there. The
Okay.
internal safety committee, and typically for the league municipal insurance, it is a plus to have something like that in place and can not only functionally help reduce rates, but also in and of itself, the impact is also that it's hopefully to reduce any potential accidents in the future, and if accidents do occur, to implement corrective action.
So if it's gonna create a lot more administration and a lot more, or is this, like, who did you pull to be on that committee?
Well, I mean, it's all internal staff, so it'd be, mostly
okay.
public works guys and parks guys,
Alright.
and it's
Okay.
not a traditional, village
gotcha.
board appointed, it
Okay.
would be in most cases, it's an internal committee. And frankly, the insurance companies more so, they encourage that, not saying it could be any type of committee, but they encourage some type of committee to be in place. Not saying that our insurance has, but just that, in my experience, that they have encouraged a safety committee to be formed to evaluate it, and then having, documentation in terms of the corrective action.
Okay, opinions from anybody besides Nate?
Just direct staff to come up with something, keep us.
And then keep us,
And then
us is the board or us is parks or,
I mean, I think most of the items in terms of, parks, public works, but I mean, if we want to have a clear differentiation, it'd be utility items, would be referred to utilities, and
Yeah.
everything that would be related to parks would be referred to parks, but as part of the standard operating procedure, it would just generally include that a summary could be provided, but it could lead to some complications to actually providing every single report, but the summary and the contents can be discussed and informed about it, you know what I mean? But
okay,
So you'll present us a
right,
perspective.
yeah,
policy.
I can draft a standard operating procedure, and if there is any input, but generally it's working with staff, reporting to the village administrator, and then summarizing within there what corrective action was implemented.
okay.
I have a couple of things I'd like to put on
Great.
the next agenda, if that's okay. I don't know if everybody read in the Pulse about the new reflective fire signs rolling out across the
Yep.
county.
Mhm.
It states in there in the second paragraph, the villages of Egg Harbor, Ephraim, and Sister Bay will receive new signs, but are responsible for installing them independently. Are we paying for these signs? Because we currently do not have them
Yeah, we
now.
don't have signs, ours was removed
We-
a while back.
So I think somebody needs to check with the county to find out what's going on, because we don't have them.
Prior to the meeting, I can check in and see what's going on with it, and then report back.
Okay.
Denise, I'd only add, I'm not sure aesthetically they look very good. We do have mailboxes though on pretty much most of our houses, and I thought we require numbers on the mailboxes.
And and the house.
And the house, yeah.
I don't know that there's any consistency to that, but let's see whose idea this was and.
I don't know if it's been printed, but as part of it, I can also ask where it's at in the stage, if there is anything that can be modified.
Because obviously nobody talked to us.
Yeah, I
And
will.
then I would like to make a request of this committee for future agenda item in honor of our friend Chris Hecht. I would like to propose, obviously, at the appropriate time and with the blessing of his family, which would require conversations at an appropriate time, to establish a volunteer/service day in his name. And so,
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a great idea.
I do have that noted here. Volunteers for stuff.
I have a couple of other things that are out, that are, anyway, here, Mr. Denise? No. Okay, I just want to make sure we followed up with the Mill Road landscaping plan. And there was a note that came from Julie on February 3rd about this. We've been back and forth on, this is where the stones are. Just adjacent to the parking lot across from the pavilion. Because I had asked if we could do some kind of planting in there, so it wasn't all stones. And what was agreed upon was boxwoods and golden mop false cypress. And also a plan to water them. It's just something to follow up on with. Eric, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just a follow-up thing, nothing, but just a follow-up thing. The next thing was a follow-up on, I don't know if there's still an interest or what's going on with this. And that was the e-bike folks. I'm not sure. This was in May of 25, they came back and there were required setbacks. They came back again, there were required setbacks and things that they had to adhere to in order to put that shed there and rent e-bikes. So it's a matter, we can wait till they reach out to us, or we can just do
So-
nothing.
What's the so I guess, what is the nature of the e-bikes? Like, was it a group that wants to put in e-bikes? Is it a
Yeah,
private?
yeah, it's an organization, it's a company out of Jacksonport. And they came and asked if they could put e-bikes close to where we rent, they also manage,
Where they rent the kayaks.
yeah, where they rent kayaks and stuff.
They
like that.
wanted to rent e-bikes in addition to
Right.
the other.
So we went round and round and in a very convoluted way said, okay, you can do it, but this is what needs to happen. So that's the info.
Okay.
And they had to comply with that, so it didn't wind up that they could do it last season. I don't know if they want to do it again. Really not sure.
And just
But I
so
can
I,
give you his contact info.
okay, so is there an existing agreements for the kayaks?
No. Oh, yeah, the
Yes,
kayaks there is.
yes.
Oh, for
So I
sure.
mean, it could potentially be an amendment to the existing
Could be.
agreement for.
Yeah, and I don't know where the kayak agreement, I'm not sure where that's.
And I think we approved an agreement for them to rent e-bikes, but there was a long convoluted process of a shed.
Well, a
that was
shed just
put up
appeared,
that
that happened,
Gotcha.
right?
Didn't meet and back
Okay.
and forth and confusing direction for people and
Gotcha. Okay.
ended up not being able to do it.
Okay. Just for the research project, just wanted to make sure I'm heading in the right place.
Okay. This is for way future, but another walking tour, which we never did in the fall, because we couldn't make it happen. Another thing was, there had been a request, I just still wanna keep this on the agenda, to keep thinking if we can figure this out, a drop-off site for our residents for like branches and stuff like that, because
You're talking about like a mini yardway
you
site?
know, yeah, it's complicated, it's hard, I get it, but I don't
No,
know.
I'm just asking.
And then there was a request from the committee to have me research a parks district. And it's pretty involved. It's a park and recs district, and I did reach out to the league a couple times and they didn't call me back and I didn't follow up, so I'll continue to do that. But a parks district is a pretty involved, and I don't know if you know much about those, but there was a question about, wonder if we could do that, but I don't know if it's doable in a village our size.
Is this like more of a conservation?
Cost sharing for large parks infrastructure projects in Sister Bay, like an ice rink with the neighboring communities, so it's not just Sister Bay.
It wouldn't just be us, it would be
Paying
everybody.
for something that is a
Yep.
multi-jurisdictional draw.
Okay.
It's a thought and might work well, it's not so easy, but, so those were the things that I just thought, well, let's just keep those.
Hey, Louise, there's one other one. Miles contacted me. I think Miles met with you, Ben. He's asking if we could get an update on the March meeting agenda for him to report out on Friends of the Ice Rink, their progress. And I think make sure that, with the new administrator, we have alignment on the operating agreement and the details that we've worked out. Maybe Miles gives the update on the fundraising, and Ben, you could tell us if you're good with kind of the framework that was earlier reviewed and I think approved.
Yep, and I did provide, so I did meet with Miles and then, yes, we did discuss essentially the RFP for the ice rink. And it was the Friends of the Library's intentions to align as much as possible the RFP to what the village or any municipality would do as part of an RFP. So I am gonna be providing him with some feedback on that. And then in
Good.
terms of the operating agreement, it wasn't intending to definitely be in close contact with Miles about what the Friends of the Library are doing, and just generally maintain a close relationship, with our partners, so.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm zoning out here.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
All right, does anybody else have anything else for a future meeting? Okay, so, motion to, next regular meeting will be March 2nd, and motion to adjourn. Someone? Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Ally and Aaron, I got a quick thing for you. A brilliant idea, hold on.